Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини, та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались в кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у чах перегрівся навар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великої страни.
Найкращий пастух баранячих отар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Їх доводи всяке озброєння різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні, у нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів, робить примар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російська поліція справи заводить, там пивцю рашистів ніяк не знаходить, хто винен, що в нашому полі глухар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Веде пропаганду кремлівський урод, слова пропаганди ковтає народ, тепер нове слово знає цар.
Байрактар.
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 Yes.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
О, бля! Игорь!
Hello everyone, I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 332 of the news. And also, thank you to Enforcer President for that massive donation, and thank you all for the generous support tonight.
And of course, we're going to be reporting on the past 24 hours of the news of the war in Ukraine. But before we do, I have to thank Enforcer for President for his support. We usually don't cover anything about support at the very beginning of the stream, but that was, I think, the largest amount that YouTube allows. And I've got to thank you so much for that, because it's unbelievable to think that people enjoy this channel so much like you do, Enforcer for President, to support us so greatly. But with that, we're going to be moving on. We'll, of course, get to that in a little bit in our first question segment. But it's time for us to start covering some of the news from around the world and inside of Ukraine today. And as you'll see, the title says that Ukraine stopped an entire push. And we actually have the video evidence of that push being completely stopped dead in its tracks by a very precise Ukrainian barrage, but we'll be covering that later on in stream. So stick around if you would like to see that, because it will be coming up here soon. But before we do, there is a lot of news the world over outside of Ukraine that has been happening, and we're going to start off in Stockholm, because in Sweden, they have this cool SPG called the Archer, which is really neat all around. Really like the vehicle. It's really cool, cutting edge. It's very advanced technologically. And we also got to see a video today recording its ability to shoot and scoot, from the time it stops in its tracks to setting up the gun, firing off some rounds, and then scooting away. So here's the clip. When you see the Archer rolling down the road, the cab is so weird looking with how it's only really designed for one person. We can now see that as soon as it stops, they begin preparing the gun for firing. We see it resting itself on some supports, elevating the gun, pushing the gun out of its casing. It took 14 seconds for the truck to come to a complete stop and for the gun to be ready. They now rotate the gun to the elevation and direction it needs to fire in. 23 seconds from when the truck stopped to when the first round was fired. A second round fired at 32 seconds. A third round fired at 40 seconds. The gun is now being stowed immediately after firing 3 rounds. They are now running the gun in, now depressing the gun, putting it in the travel position. And the truck is on the move and out of there before the first round even lands on its target. That's
crazy. Not even a single person out there manning anything. That's wild.
Not a single person. This thing just drives from pre-prepared position to position, firing off 3 rounds, or, as many as they want. They could fire off 5 of them if they wanted to. But if they fire off 3, the first round is fired. And by the time that the truck is on the move again, the first round still has a second of flight time left before it hits its target. Absolutely unbelievable to see this kind of technology in action and how bizarre this looks. The whole thing is crazy. The Archer will definitely be providing a lot of ability to the Ukrainian artillerists that they never had before. The dead-on accuracy, the lack of crew members, and also the ability for this thing to shoot and scoot in such a rapid time is unbelievable. I would actually have to say, looking at this video, this is now beating out the Caesar SPG by leaps and bounds. It's beating it by miles in terms of what it's capable of doing as compared to the Caesar. And the Caesar was already considered incredibly fast, even compared to conventional SPGs like the Panzerhaubitze and the M109. And now we can see that this thing is making the Caesar look slow, which is crazy to say the least. And I had to show y'all this video first thing off tonight because the support of these Archer systems, something like 14 of them from Sweden, is no joke and no laughing matter. The Russians will practically never be able to hit these things due to their ability to stay on the move and hardly stop at all. It only took 74 seconds from when it stopped for it to be on the move again. So the Russians will only have about a minute and 14-second window to try and hit this thing when it's stationary. And in between those moments, it will be constantly probably traveling up and down the roads of Ukraine, probably getting resupplied well behind the lines out of range. So these things are practically indestructible just due to the speed at which they're moving around. With that, we're now going to be...
And how much does that thing weigh? Because it looks like it weighs a ton. I didn't even see outriggers on it.
A really good question, actually. We're going to let the video wrap up here, but we're going to go and try and figure out the cost of this thing here in a second. And now finally, right here at the end of this video, the last round finally impacted the target. All three landed probably right on the mark as the Archer is already driving away from the position. So now let's pull up how much do these Archers cost and how much do they weigh. So the Archer SPG, weight. Let's see here. The Archer artillery system weighs 30 tons? It weighs 30 tons.
Goodness.
Golly. But it only
That's
costs...
why... Oh, wait. Are those outriggers on the back that I see in that picture?
Yes, they are.
Oh, okay. I didn't see those in the video.
Oh, yeah, they actually deployed earlier on in the video, but one thing that's really crazy about this, Matthew, is that this thing weighs as much as a older French main battle tank called the AMX-30. And I'll show you this just to give you a scale of how heavy this SPG really is. This tank right here weighed 30 tons, and the French used this for most of the Cold War as their main battle tank. This thing weighs 30 tons, and it's just an SPG.
Man, what's making up the weight? Like, is it just the gun or is it the chassis?
Probably the turret, probably the chassis, probably the cab as well. It looked like the cab, based off of how simple, I guess you could say, the angles were. It looked like it was heavily armored. So the one guy, I'm guessing, that's driving it around, or maybe the two guys who were back here in this little area where you could see that small door hatch, they are, I'm supposing, fairly well protected. So if artillery rounds did start to land on them, the shrapnel wouldn't penetrate the cab and end up killing the crew members. But I think, if I had to give you an answer, most of that weight is in the gun itself and probably all of the internal mechanisms within its small turret that's oscillating at the back. Another thing that's really interesting about this, Matthew, and this is probably the craziest thing to me, this thing only costs $4 million. That's just $500,000 more than an M1 Abrams tank.
Only $4 million. That's one of the cheaper pieces of equipment in the war, isn't it?
I think it is, actually. This is one of the cheapest artillery systems I think we have seen, because if we look at the cost of a HIMARS, cost of an M142 HIMARS, the total estimated cost is $495 million. That's not for a single one. Let's see, it had a purchase of 20 HIMARS between 1 and 2 billion. So we'll go with a low estimate of $1 billion, and we'll divide that by 20. And I know I'm not good at math, y'all, sorry. So 1 billion. So we've gotten up to 100 million. So let me flip my phone sideways. 1 billion divided by 20. So a single HIMARS costs 50 million US dollars. A single Archer system costs around $4 million. So you can get around 15 Archer SPGs for the same cost of a single M142 HIMARS. Not only is it incredibly impressive technologically, but it's very cost efficient as well. It also can fire all of the normal NATO munitions like the M982 Excalibur rounds, so this thing is definitely going to be packing a punch as far as frontline artillery is concerned, and making it even more difficult for the Russians to destroy what has already become practically indestructible Western artillery pieces that the Ukrainians have been using. We're now going to be moving on from this little clip, and also that information about the Archer, which is absolutely insane when you put it in context. And we're now going to be moving on into our next bit of news, and if I remember correctly, it is in Germany. I butchered that. It's Germany. I was trying to say Germany. And we can see that apparently, as you all know, there's been a big deal being made about the Leopard 2s and the waffling that the German government has been doing in sending them. They originally said, yes, we'll send them. Then they said, no, we're not going to send them ever. Then they said, we might send them. And then they said, no, we're not again. And now they're saying, we will send them only if America sends M1 Abrams. We'll send them as, I guess, supporting vehicles in a way. And so we can see that this is apparently not even popular with the German public at large, because mass demonstrations have begun in Berlin about sending them over to Ukraine. So here's the video. Oh, you see them waving Ukrainian flags, Finnish flags. And we can see one person holding up a cardboard sign saying, "All I need is leopards." So it's very clear what they're here for. You see the Reichstag over there in the background, and this appears to be a massive demonstration. We can't even see the end of it on film, so there may be multiple thousands, maybe even 10,000 people in this demonstration, but once again, that's a very large estimate in the numbers. However, one thing is very clear. It appears that the decision to start waffling and make German support dependent on U.S. support is not really even popular with the German people. So, real quick, I would like to say this because, in a way, I think some German viewers of this channel feel like they are being blamed for the inaction of their government, and I would like to make it a little bit of a discernment here. The German public is not really a big fan of not sending the Leopards to Ukraine. However, the German government is. So it appears that if anyone has a complaint or a problem, it doesn't really lie within Germany as a people or a nation. It really relies within just the German government itself and their reluctance to do anything to further the aims and goals of this current war. So with that, we're going to be moving on from this little clip, and hopefully, eventually, they'll be persuaded to send the Leopard 2s to Ukraine, considering that they are easy to maintain, easy to function, and also pretty high-end in terms of their optics, ergonomics, and other features that make modern Western-made battle tanks far above the comparison of the Russian tanks. With that, we're now going to be moving really close to the border of Poland, because Poland has been, of course, the corridor for most Western support. Romania is the smaller of the two, and has been used to transport a decent amount of supplies into Ukraine, but Poland is the primary supplier of arms into Ukraine, and the highways and railroads that lead there are the ones where we see the most activity. For example, today, we saw on one of the Polish highways near Rzhał a large Bundeswehr, or Heer convoy, moving its way towards the Ukrainian border. We see here an interesting mix of German equipment. We can see an Iltis Forungs. You see a... not really sure what kind of supply truck that was. I feel like it's a man, but I'm not exactly sure. We can now see another supply truck with a trailer attached. And as this bus or truck continues to move on up, we can see another supply truck with the exact same configuration as the last one. See a railroad passing right over... well, actually, that's another road. Sorry, it looked like a railroad tie there for a minute. We can see the bus now catching up to the next vehicle in the convoy. Once again, carrying a smaller trailer. And this vehicle also appears to be slightly different. That is a Unimog. Matthew's favorite truck. He's like, "Ooh, a Unimog." The bus is still trucking on. You see another supply truck in the convoy. See them passing
These
it right
trucks
there.
are carrying what again?
We're not really sure what they're carrying. They are carrying a decent amount of supplies, considering that each one has a trailer attached. It's most likely some kind of support being driven to the Ukrainian border, but we don't know exactly what's inside of these vehicles. It could be anything. Now, I've got to tell you, it looks cold as hell in Poland right now. It looks frigid out there. We can't relate in Alabama, because in Alabama it's still like 50 or 60 degrees for the most part. And I believe this may be one of the vehicles towards the front of the convoy. Those look like they may be some kind of electrical substations or generators. And we see a couple of more vehicles here in this convoy. We can now see them passing another supply truck with a Iltis Forungs being transported on the back of it. We can now see another Unimog. Matthew will surely like this. Oh, the Unimog! Another supply truck. You can see that the convoy is quite extensive in size. It's a very large convoy. This one has the Trailer Deluxe Edition on the back of it. Another supply truck with another small trailer. Another supply truck, this time carrying a generator behind it. It's a Unimog supply truck, by the way. Again, Matthew's favorite truck.
Oh!
We can see some kind of a larger HEMTT. No, I don't think that is actually an HEMTT. It's some other version of a vehicle that the Germans use. See another supply truck. This convoy goes on forever. Another Unimog, by the way.
Wow.
Matthew is absolutely drooling. He's like, wow, so many Unimogs. These things could go well in a derby. Or a rally. I think a rally would be the correct one for these things.
A Unimog in a rally?
Yeah.
I don't know about that. That thing doesn't have the transmission for that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, they still look cool. And we can see the front of the convoy up here. It looks like they're being escorted by a police car. And we see the last two supply trucks right here. And with that, that's the end of the clip, but giving you a little bit of a taste of what the Germans are currently sending right now. And while that is good to see that they're sending a decent amount of equipment in this convoy, we're still waiting for the Leopard 2s. The Leopard 2s are one of the most important things that could be sent to Ukraine, and while the British are sending about 14 Challenger 2s, the Polish are sending about 14 Leopard 2 A4s, that is not enough. The Germans are the ones who truly have the bulk and numbers of Leopard 2s to transport to Ukraine for them to use, and so hopefully the Germans will come around sometime in the future and finally send that equipment and those supplies to them. With that, we're going to be moving on to the next clip we saw in Poland, where we saw more support on the way. This time, it's from the good old... wait for it. NATO. We're going to have to mute that, but you can see all of the supply trucks that are being transported to Ukraine. Very important in a war. We don't really cover this much. Everyone's always talking about the big guns, the big equipment, but these kinds of supply trucks right here you see being transported are some of the most important vehicles in the war, because without these simple trucks, these frontline units cannot function nor operate. And so getting larger trucks that can carry a larger amount of supplies in a single given time is somewhat beneficial. And we see that there's quite a lot of them right here. Once again, it kind of looks like they're German vehicles. You see the end of the train passing right here. Once again, a good little bit of support, we're assuming, from the Germans, considering there's a lot of Unimogs, Iltis and other forms of German vehicles that the Heer uses within this train consist. And so with that, we're going to be moving on from that clip, and once again, good to know that supplies are already flowing into Ukraine as we speak. However, before we actually get into Ukraine and cover what the Ukrainians have been doing today and the incredible... pretty much complete stop that they put on the Russian offensive somewhere in the south, we saw some interesting things in Russia again. So we have to bring y'all there just to make sure that the brain rot is good and well insured amongst most of you. And so here's the first clip, where we saw that the Russians, for some reason, because y'all all know that it's been largely stated on Russian media as the truth that nobody in the world supports them. Everyone hates them, and everyone wants the Russians dead. And we're all alone out here in this world, and we're the only true defenders of the true way things are. And that's the way it's been on Russian media forever. Now they've decided that it's now time to do a complete 180, and now instead of most of the world hating them, most of the world is cheering them on. So here's the clip where they said that on Russian state TV today, so that way the public feels like they're not really public enemy number one of the rest of the world, or something similar. What was that woman doing right there?
Let's see it again. Slav squat.
I'm getting some how do you say it? Monica vibes from this.
Oh.
I don't know.
Информационный канал на Первом продолжает свое вещание. Программа «Время покажет». Работаем в прямом эфире. Против нас идет война. Причем война жестокая, где противник использует самые отъявленные методы борьбы и уничтожения нас с вами, причем в прямом смысле этого слова.
Но мы, Руслан, часто забываем, что есть еще, скажем так, третий наблюдатель в виде огромной части мира, который относится к нам, ну, даже с
A
симпатией.
huge part of the world sympathizes with us, but the whole world doesn't.
Кто эти сторонние наблюдатели?
Огромный лагерь так называемого глобального юга. Это страны Азии, Африки, Латинской Америки. Вот сейчас прошел саммит глобального юга, Индия проводила. Более 120 государств. И сейчас разворачивается двадцатка в сторону глобального юга, куда не приглашен, кстати, президент Зеленский. Сейчас меняется ситуация в мире.
Я здесь поддержу коллегу.
Wait a minute, he just said this. I gotta pause this. I know no one likes me pausing this, but sometimes these points have to be addressed and I have to pause it. So this guy just said right here, Matthew, India held a conference for all of the nations of the South, so the African, South American countries, and he said, oh, by the way, Zelenskyy wasn't invited. It's like, but he's a leader of a country that isn't in the Southern Hemisphere. It's in the Northern Hemisphere.
Right. I don't know if they're talking about like geography or they're talking about like economic status, because some people say South is in like, you know, economic status.
Oh, he was talking about the geographic location. I'll show you again. Right here, he says the countries of Asia, Africa, and Latin America. All of those are in the southern hemisphere for the larger part, or in the south of the equator, I guess you could say. And so he clearly makes it a geographical distinction, not an economic one. And then he sits there and goes, "Oh, by the way, Zelenskyy wasn't invited. Like for some reason, Ukraine's now in Africa or something like that." It's like, well, obviously he wouldn't be if it's a meeting for countries south of the equator. It's not, Ukraine isn't south of the equator. That makes no sense.
Разворачивается двадцатка в сторону глобального юга, куда не приглашен, кстати, президент Зеленский. Сейчас меняется ситуация в мире.
Я здесь поддержу коллегу. Есть БРИКС, есть Шанхайская организация, в которых нас слышат. И информацию, которую мы туда даем, она будет распространяться, это 100%. А это, извините меня, ну где-то больше половины населения. В Организации Объединенных Наций примерно 70% стран за нас.
Look. In the UN, this guy actually gave a real number right here. In the United Nations, approximately 70% of the countries are for us. The last time we saw a vote held in the United Nations General Assembly, everyone but 4 countries condemned what the Russians were doing. They voted to condemn their actions. So I don't know where he's coming from up with 70%, because about 95% of world governments are condemning what the Russians are doing right now. So how in the hell did he get this number? I have no idea.
70% стран за нас.
В России произведен первый боекомплект ядерных суперторпед «Посейдон». Заряд будет использоваться в атомные подводные лодки специального назначения «Белгород». Об этом сообщает информагентство ТАСС.
Oh, they got a hyped up music for the nuclear torpedo.
Соединенные Штаты, между тем, находятся в состоянии паники. Издание Newsweek нагнетает, сообщая, что наш «Посейдон» может уничтожить Нью-Йорк.
Немецкие танки на русской земле против русских воинов может стать вполне реальным в ближайшем будущем, тем более, что Украина, по сути, становится тренировочным полигоном для западного военно-промышленного комплекса.
А вот хотелось бы узнать, как далеко могут зайти эти испытания.
Поставляет много всего. Во-первых, это системы радиоэлектронной борьбы, это вот новейшие системы противовоздушной обороны, тоже, которые пытаются испытывать, посмотреть, как они действуют. Тот же Patriot.
Hang on. Sorry, everyone. My dinner's ready. What the hell is that noise? Like, listen to that again, Matthew.
I think it's an ad popping up.
Обороны тоже, которые пытаются испытывать, посмотреть, как они действуют.
What the hell?
They got a big old ad popping up on their news channel.
Абсолютно не нужны для обеспечения безопасности Украины.
Но для испытаний против российской армии.
Для испытаний.
Wait, hang on. Let me back up and look at this again. They're testing to see how well they'll perform. One Patriot system can't make any difference. Even 2 of them wouldn't. Why wouldn't they?
Абсолютно не нужны.
They're completely unnecessary for Ukraine's security because, you know, Russian cruise and ballistic missiles aren't flying into Ukraine in massive waves on a bi-weekly basis. That's not happening. This guy's stupid or something. And on top of that, he's going to sit there, Patriots aren't going to make a difference. What the hell is he talking about? The Patriot can shoot down practically anything. It has a 98 to 99% interception success rate. It is an impressive system. These things will make a massive difference. This guy is just talking out of his rear end.
Для обеспечения безопасности Украины.
Но для испытаний против российской армии.
для испытаний, для проверки, как они работают по крылатым ракетам из композитных материалов нашим, по беспилотникам, как они работают. И это, конечно, великолепный полигон.
То есть инструкция по использованию, значит, американского оружия будут написаны украинской кровью.
И украинской, и российской, и кровью самое страшное мирных граждан.
До завтра. Спасибо.
So
за
how
внимание.
the world
Also,
is
wait. So now they're defending Ukraine and Russia against the West.
Yeah, now the evil Americans are killing everyone to get something out of it. They're killing the Ukrainians, they're killing the Russians, and also I like how after they got out that singer, Matthew, look at this. What the hell is this?
До завтра. Спасибо за внимание.
They just walk off. See you tomorrow. Thanks.
That's so awkward.
Oh my god. This show is something. This show is a true gem right here with the stupidity they're saying. And also, they're saying this guy said unfortunately civilians will also be killed as well. How? That's the whole point we're sending them to Ukraine. They're supposed to be shooting down the missiles that are flying into Ukraine that are killing citizens. How in the world are they going to end up killing citizens by using them? The only thing they can do is save lives if successful interceptions occur. And not only that, this guy sat there and said Patriots are practically useless and have no meaning to the Ukrainians as far as their security is concerned. And then he sits there and talks about how blood will be spilled on everyone's end if they're used. Apparently, they must be effective to some degree, considering that they're going to be killing off, pretty much according to this guy, everyone. The Ukrainians, the Russians, and citizens caught in between. So I don't know what the hell this guy is even trying to get at, because he says they're completely ineffective. They may as well be Sergeant Klink out there trying to shoot something down. And then he goes on to say that they are literally Armageddon itself incarnate and is going to be blowing up everything in between here and Hong Kong, which makes no sense. But anyways, we're going to let them triumphantly walk off after that zinger right here. Bet is so awkward looking. And that's the end of the clip. Once again, propaganda at its finest. We're moving on to the next bit of news from Moscow, where we also saw air defenses have now been put up near one of Putin's mansions in the area. We tried to geolocate this, and while I say it's in the area, we're not entirely sure, because it says 10 kilometers from Novo Orgirovo, but we could not find out where that town was. But we can see here, they zoomed in, and oh, look, it's a Panzer again. That thing's just sitting there, just chilling. The crew's probably drunk and passed out inside of the Panzer. A missile could go flying right over these guys' heads. They would never even flinch. It's very interesting to see, Matthew, all these Panzers, because the Panzer has largely disappeared out of Ukraine in the battlefields where the Russians are fighting, but for some reason they're starting to pop up everywhere else where they really don't need them, like Putin's houses, the Ministry of Defense building. They're everywhere but where they could actually be used somewhat.
Tells you the priorities. They'll take them off the battlefield to protect Putin, even though he's really not, at risk at this point.
Yeah, they are going to pull vital battlefield equipment off the front lines that is hardly even competent whenever we see it in use. We've seen a load of Panzers get destroyed by the very things they're supposed to shoot down, which is drones. And then they'll take these and they'll put them around Putin's inner circle to protect them and just leave all of the Russian soldiers high and dry to fend for themselves and try and shoot down incoming drones and everything else with some rifles. But I like to see it, though. This is a good thing, because while it's stupid and I would criticize it if I was the leader of Russia, luckily I'm not that sick and evil, so I'm not the leader of Russia, it's very interesting to see that they will just leave the soldiers high and dry and put themselves first publicly, where you can visually see that happening. And nobody in Russia apparently bats an eye, cares, or really even notices, except for us out here in the West. So once again, the Russian government showing who the priorities are really for. It's really for the top guys, not the guys that, well, the guys and gals that pretty much live all across Russia. With that, we're now going to be moving on from that little clip and on out of Russia, because the brain rot can only go on for so long. And that type of brain rot, you can only have so much of it before you just get completely overloaded with it. So we're now going to be moving out of that place and on down into Ukraine, because we saw something really neat today. I had to show you all this one before we get to the location unknowns. A Tupolev 141. Look, guys, an old Soviet drone launcher. It's somewhere in Ukraine. We don't know where this really is in particular, but we'll see as this car begins to pass. It is an old Soviet era, literally, Tu-141 launcher. You can even see that the truck is fairly old as well. And these old trucks carrying these incredibly dated drones, by decades old at this point and practically obsolete, were able to destroy a pretty sizable amount of Russia's strategic bomber fleet over the course of a single day about a month and a half ago. I always love to think back about the Russian incompetence, Matthew, because even if the Ukrainians do not have the most advanced Western equipment, they are still able to blow Russians away with stuff that, at this point in time, would have been used by people's grandfathers.
Very true.
Very true, very true. And we can see him finally pass the Tu-141 launcher, and I can't wait to see that Tu-141 strike down at another Russian airfield like the one right outside of Saratov, which I'll show you all again. And let me make sure I'm going to the right airfield, which is right here, and it'll strike up these little Tu-95s and the little private jet. Huh, okay. Kind of weird. They have an Antonov aircraft and a couple of Aleutians. But what I'm looking for those Tu-160s right here. There they are. And hopefully they'll get some of these, because these things are some of Russia's best and finest bombers. And remember, everyone, the Russians just finally got the assembly lines up to build these things right before the war. So while they're stuck in the 70s and the 80s, we're living in 2022 here in the United States. Well, 2023, really. Hell, I'd even say 2030. Getting the B-21 Raiders ready to fly while the Russians are still trying to build knockoff B-1 Lancers. Always good to remember that and keep that in mind, but it's also very important to destroy those bombers because they are still incredibly potent, considering that they can fire off cruise and ballistic missiles from hundreds of miles away and, of course, strike directly at the Ukrainian citizenry. With that, we're now moving into our location unknowns, and we're going to see some Russians fly, maybe some Russians fry. So starting off with our first clip, we had a little picture of some SSO soldiers who decided to take a little photo op. They looked pretty cool. We can see that they got the flags up for the fundraising and helping them out, and we can see that they have some stuff here. I'm not sure if that was stuff that they were able to get as support, and it also appears that they may have a little YPR 765 behind them. But once again, neat to know that the SSO is out there on the lines, of course doing their thing, helping to fight back against the Russians. This was not located when I originally saw this. I think it said location unknown, but now it's located near the Bakhmut front, and once again, they are helping to hold the line. And good to see that the SSO is out there along with the rest of the rank and file of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, helping to hold that area. We're now going to be moving on into our next bit of location unknown news, where we saw a Russian turned himself in today and actually said, instead of talking about the terrible conditions that Russian soldiers were fighting in, the insanity of Prigozhin and how poorly he treats his men, this Russian soldier is actually stepping up for the right thing, and he is ready to talk about the war crimes that he has personally seen committed right in front of him by the Russian army. Before we get to that, though, it is a video, and it will go through a little bit of detail about this guy and his story. We've got to address some polls, because some of the polls have come through and have been absolutely interesting with how y'all been voting on him. And not only that, we also have to address some questions and the massive amount of support from Enforcer for President. And so with that, Matthew, what do we got?
All right, so we have 3 polls to address during our first question segment tonight. And the very first one that was put up says, due to affordability, availability, etc., should NATO countries send more Archers to Ukraine? 79% said yes, they would be game-changing. 7% said unsure. 6% said no, different equipment is needed. And 9% said yes and no, I need more info first. So for what I've seen in that video, I would say that if we could get more Archers into Ukraine, it would probably be a huge help. But I think I saw somebody in the live chat say that there's only 40 of them in the world right now. If that is accurate, I'm not really sure. But if that's the case, well then, we'll definitely need to ramp up production then if we want to send more to Ukraine. But if we can do that, it would be a good solution. But Enforcer, what say you?
If the Swedes wanted to, they could offer the Ukrainians to purchase some. That could be something that maybe the United States could do as a surrogate, is provide the funds to purchase more Archer orders, have them produced in Sweden, and then transported from Sweden to Ukraine. There are only 48 of them in the world right now, and the Swedes have sent something like a quarter of their entire Archer SPG force to support Ukraine. So they don't really have a lot more to give right now, because they always have to ensure that their military is ready to go at a given moment, so they can't really hand over much beyond the 12 that they've sent. So maybe the United States might want to step in and try and fill out some order forms for the Ukrainians to get some more heading their way. Because I'm a big fan of the M777. I'm a big fan of American artillery systems in general. However, the cost effectiveness and the advanced abilities of the Archer SPG are above and beyond anything else we've seen in the West so far, in its ability to shoot and scoot, its range, its accuracy, and everything else in between. So I would certainly say that we should get more of those to Ukraine, before we get anything else. Well, we can keep sending everything else their way because anything helps, but we ought to try and make the Archer SPGs and the Caesar SPGs the top priority of the kind of artillery systems we want to send to Ukraine, because we've seen that those have been the most effective so far in avoiding destruction and also laying down some waste on the Russian soldiers and forces as a whole. And so with that, I hope that does address that poll fairly well. And let's get on into the next one, because we had another pretty juicy one.
All right, and while I'm moving to the next one, I saw Paula McDonald say if you could put the P.O. box back in the chat. Apparently she missed it last night, so if you could do that, that would be greatly appreciated by the audience. But anyways, the next poll says, do you think both Germany and the USA are playing games and stalling on sending modern tanks? It looks like 48% said both of them are playing games, 39% said only Germany, 1% said only the USA, and 11% said unsure and undecided. I'm going to say that both of them are. I think I know why the USA is stalling. I'm not exactly sure why Germany is stalling, because I'm not really sure about their internal politics on that. But very interesting. I'll be interested to find out more about the situation. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would say, I would have to be honest with you. I don't think the United States is playing a lot of games, because the honest truth is that while Abrams are somewhat similar to the T-80, I've tried to do as much research as possible off stream, and they are fairly complicated to maintain. It takes a lot to operate them, and the supply requirements for an Abrams is probably something that the Ukrainians cannot account for or ever do on their own. So there would have to be a decent amount of American involvement in that supply chain beyond their operation. We would have to practically send over an entire armored division's worth of soldiers, send them into Poland with all of the parts and facilities needed to maintain these Abrams, and then send them into Ukraine and out of Ukraine whenever they're ready to go or whenever they need repairs or work done on them. So it would be fairly difficult to send them over on our end, and so in that way it doesn't really seem like we're playing that big of a game. It appears though that the Germans are trying to play a game based off of a impracticality of the Abrams not being able to be sent. The Abrams can't be sent for valid reasons. The Leopard 2 can be sent. It's perfectly usable in Ukraine. The engine is fairly easy to maintain. It's a simple diesel. The Ukrainians have a lot of experience working on very comparable diesels in Russian, Soviet main battle tanks. They have very good ergonomics, very good maneuverability, great armor, a great gun, great sights, great just ergonomics all around, to explain that the best we can. And so the Germans are trying to play a game of waffle here with the United States and say, hey, we can't send them because America's not willing to send tanks. But the clear answer is we can't. And the Ukrainians could never use them effectively in the first place, because trying to maintain them would be practically infeasible for the Ukrainians at this point. It'd probably be infeasible for the Ukrainians throughout the duration of the war and even years after. It would take a substantial amount of economic and military development in Ukraine for them to have the ability to maintain those tanks. So unless if we're willing to send another multi-billion-dollar support package just to upgrade some of their basic railroad infrastructure and then send Abrams on top of that, we probably will never see Abrams get sent to Ukraine. And so the Germans are kind of playing a politics game on their own, or a diplomacy game, and trying to game the system where they don't have to send any Leopards. So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. Marcus Maximus said the Leopard's armor isn't that great. And I've got to be honest with you, I'm kind of on the fence with that, because in Syria, I don't know if it was the incompetence of the Turkish military that led to this, or whether it's an inherent vulnerability or weakness within the Leopard's armor, but we did see a decent amount of Turkish Leopards get destroyed. So I'll pull this up. Turkish Leopard destroyed in Syria. And I think there are actually some pictures of this. And yep, here we go. That is a Leopard 2A4 right there that was completely obliterated. We can see that the engine bay separated from the Leopard 2, as well as the turret, and it had a substantial turret toss involved in its explosion as well. We can see another picture here on Reddit of another Turkish Leopard 2A4 that was also destroyed. It appears that this one, believe it or not, may have been destroyed because of an ammunition cook-off in the blowout panels, and this led the crew to bail out, just leaving the tank almost intact, but the ammunition completely gone. Another interesting picture we can look at here, this one appears to be in higher definition of the last thing I stated. Hang on, correction. We're not looking at a single Leopard 2A4 that's detached right here. We're looking at two Turkish Leopard 2A4s in this picture that were blown apart. This one appears to have been hit directly in the ammunition stowage at the front bottom part of the hull, at the front of this Leopard 2, causing an explosion and seeing the turret flying, and the one up front has also lost its turret, but we can't really tell where it was hit. We can also see some kind of a Turkish armored car there, some kind of a Kirpi, perhaps, that was also destroyed, but you can see that based off of the Turkish performance of Leopard 2s in Syria, they may have some inherent vulnerabilities, or the Turkish military may be incompetent in that degree in using those armored forces, and may have gotten them destroyed due to some kind of an overextension of the armored past the infantry, where they were no longer supported and easily destroyed. Regardless, it is something to point out, and very interesting to look at, and I'm trying to look through some more pictures here, because this has really just piqued my interest, and it's really bizarre to think that we actually have pictures of Leopard 2 A4s littering the field, just completely destroyed. Bizarre. So anyways, you do have a good point in that degree. It may have some weak armor, we're not really sure, but out of everything the West could send, the Leopard 2 A4 is the one that the Ukrainians could use, and when you pair it against Russian armor, it will obviously be better. It still has inherent vulnerabilities, it is a tank after all, but beyond that, I think they still should be sent, and hopefully the Ukrainians could use them to where they don't overextend and get destroyed like these were. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on into the next poll, actually.
All right, so the third and final poll of the first question segment says, why do you think Russia keeps moving vital defenses off the front line to protect government officials? The most popular choice is 51% that say they think Ukraine will strike them. 24% said they suspect a coup is imminent, and 14% said they know the war is a lost cause, while only 11% said unsure. Now on this one, I'm going to have to say unsure, because I'm not really exactly clear why they're doing what they're doing. I saw some folks saying a coup, but I think that's always a concern, especially when you have a dictator in charge. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would completely agree. A coup is always something that the Russians are scared of, and it appears that actually, I was trying to read up about Prigozhin today, it appears that Prigozhin may be viewed right now as a political threat within Russia, and may actually be trying to poise himself to either get enough support with the Russian public and in the military to pretty much try and commit a coup against Putin. So that's fairly interesting. I don't really know if there's a lot of weight and merit to it, because we don't get to see a lot of the behind the scenes, behind the closed doors dealings in between Prigozhin, Putin, and the rest of the government and the military to know if that's feasible or not. But it is something interesting to consider. However, I think that the large majority is correct. The 51% that said they think the Ukrainians will strike them. That is probably what they're scared of the most, and that's why they've started to move these anti-air defense systems into position, is that they're starting to think that the Ukrainians may start to directly strike Russian governmental buildings like the Ministry of Defense and Putin's mansions to either try and kill off Putin or to kill off important members of the ministry. So either way, fairly interesting. I saw Thomas Ingle say, nah, it's just propaganda. I promise you, that is not a propaganda. You do not go through the effort of lifting a pantsir onto a building for propaganda purposes. That just makes it look like you're afraid, and not really a good look overall, in my opinion at least, but that may be the point. You may be correct. It may just be for propaganda purposes. But with that, I hope that...
And also that one pantsir that was 10 kilometers from his house, that was kind of like out in the woods where nobody really can see it, wasn't it?
Kind of, yeah. I guess you could say it was. And they may be trying to hide that one to make it look like they're not really that scared. But the fact still stands they have some kind of defensive perimeter around Putin's mansion, around 10 miles away from the actual building. So fairly interesting in its own right. But with that, I hope that does address that poll fairly well. And now it's time for us to get on into the questions.
All right. So getting into our Super Chat questions. Up first, we have a $500 donation from Enforcer for President. Very generous, extremely generous, and thank you very much for that. Enforcer President says, LSA, the flashback for life, and give one to the chat.
And thank you so much once again for the support, Enforcer for President. And also, the flashback actually gave us a little shout out on his channel. I'll actually plug him here real quick because he's a pretty cool dude. He's out there doing his thing. He's also talked to Starsky, and he's one of the brave fighting soldiers on the front. And so I'll show you all this. I think he's pretty cool. So he's gotten 23.4 thousand subscribers now. He is taking off. So let's see here on the community page. Also, he talked to Ukraine TBIC.
Oh, nice.
Pretty cool. He's getting on around there. So let me scroll down. Here we go. This is the one where he shouted us out. Right here, you see at Enforcer Official and Starsky UA. And we got him, we both, plugging him, got him up to 20,000. Really cool, and I think he deserves it entirely. I also responded to him, and he had a really cool comment. He says he watches the stream as much as he can, and I thought that was really nice of him to say, because I never really think that this channel is watched by a whole lot of people in Ukraine, but then a decent amount of people from Ukraine actually watch this stream, which is really cool. But yeah, a huge shout out to the Flashback. Really cool guy. And if y'all haven't already subscribed to him, I highly recommend y'all do, because he's just all around a pretty cool guy. And also he puts out some really good videos like these. And also he's got some really good thumbnails that use like the Star Trek style text font.
I like that. That's really cool, actually.
Honestly, I have to agree. It's a really cool look. I like his thumbnails. Maybe we'll copy them exactly in the future. But anyways, thank you so much for the unbelievable amount of support in Force for President. That has got to be the biggest super chat we have gotten, I think, in months. So thank you so much once again. I cannot believe that you supported us that heavily, and we will make sure to give one to the chat. And so with that, Matthew, what is the live chat from the live chat?
All right, so the live chat question goes to Donald Salyers, who says, Enforcer, are the Germans sending Swiss munitions for Gepards, even though Swiss don't allow?
Swish.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Swiss munitions.
Are they sending swish? LeBron James gets a three-pointer as you say that. But anyways, to answer that question, I believe the Germans are sending Leopard, Gepard ammunition. The Swiss provided the Gepard ammunition to the Germans because they had ammunition manufactories earlier on, and the Germans have been storing that for years. So once the Germans got it, they can really do whatever they want with it. The concern, however, is that the Germans have practically already run out of the Gepard ammo, and now the only country that provides it anywhere in the world is the Swiss, because for some reason they still produce it. However, due to them having neutrality clauses within their national constitution, there isn't really a way for the Swiss to send ammunition to a nation at war without breaking their neutrality. And here's the double-edged sword of Swiss neutrality. They either can send nothing to anyone, or if they send weapons to Ukraine, then the Russians can also buy weapons from the Swiss as well, because it's either completely on for everyone or completely off, because that's how Swiss neutrality works. So, really, to be honest with you, I don't really see the concern there, because if the Russians wanted to buy something from Switzerland, there's really nothing for them to buy. You know, it's not like the Swiss produce Russian or Soviet calibers of ammunition or anything like that. So they could say, we're opening up arms sales to both the Russians and the Ukrainians. And the Ukrainians go, okay, I'd like to buy some Gepard ammo. And then what do the Russians do? Yeah, so I'd like to buy Gepard ammo. Okay, for what air defense system do you use that uses that? None of them. Okay, well, I guess you're not buying anything from us then. So that's kind of the problem that the Ukrainians are facing with the Germans and the Swiss, is that the Germans don't have any factories that make the stuff. The Swiss do, but due to their neutrality, they really can't send it. And once again, I hope no one gives the Swiss an incredibly hard time for their neutrality. We've actually had some Swiss viewers on here before that have explained the entire situation with how Switzerland works and why that is the case. And if you know about Swiss history, it's not that they're scared of their past or anything. It's just that this is how they've been forever. This is how they've been ever since 1815 at the Congress of Vienna. They have never entered a war on anyone's side. And if anything, the only times they commit to any kind of activities or actions, it is in the purposes of maintaining their neutrality. So unfortunately, that's just the way it is. Maybe the Germans can open up another Gepard arms factory to produce the ammunition, but for now, that appears to be a high unlikelihood. And we do not know how much ammunition the Ukrainians currently have, how much they've used, and how much they have left, and how long that'll last them. So with that, I hope that does address that live chat fairly well. And with that, we are... Wait a minute. Donald Salyers said, I heard Swiss gave permission. Swiss Gepard ammo. Swiss again reject German request to re-export. Swiss veto German request to re-export tank ammunition. This was all in this was in April of last year, in 2022. That was in November, and this was from Meja in November as well. We haven't gotten any new news beyond November about the Gepard ammo, but I believe it still stands as it was then. So with that, I hope that does address that the best we can. Also pulling up a little bit of information if possible. And with that, we are on to the next one. But thank you so much once again, Force for President, for sponsoring that live chat and helping us out massively. I really just blows
All right.
Go
Go ahead.
You can go ahead.
Took that big gulp there for a minute. It looked like a long pause. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm having some issues over here, but I got to thank you so much for the mass amount of support for President, because it really is honestly just flattering, the amount of support that you send. That's unbelievable. I can't even really fathom how big that is, but I do thank you so much for it, because it helps this channel to keep on running, and it shows us how much you appreciate this channel. Once again, though, while I say that, you do not have to throw in support for us to know that you all appreciate this channel. All you have to do is just say something like, "Hey, thanks, we love the channel," and we take that as big of support as praise as well. So with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running.
And yes, indeed. Thank you very much. That was very generous. And up next, we have a $50 super chat from Hal Rose, who says, Enforcer, big tanks are big ticket items and may get stuck in the mud in March. And please pick a question from the chat, please.
And thank you so much for the support. And that is true. Tanks could get stuck in the mud, but I don't think that should remove the idea of sending Western tanks into Ukraine, because any kind of tank will get stuck in the mud, whether it be a Soviet-era tank, whether it be a modern Western tank. That will always be an issue that is run into. And so I don't think we should make that a point of contention to not send support over to Ukraine in the form of tanks. I believe that we still should send support, and the Ukrainians should just keep that in mind when coming up with battle plans and doctrine. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And let's get to that live chat. And also, thank you so much for the massive amount of support as well.
All right. And the live chat question is going to go to Dennis Wilson, who says, how can Switzerland sell arms to Russia without violating sanctions?
The Swiss, well, we're getting a lot of questions about the Swiss tonight, aren't we? I mean, like, the Swiss are the point of discussion. But moving on into the Swiss, can you reread that question again?
How can Switzerland sell arms to Russia without violating sanctions?
Great question. They probably could. Well, the thing is that they're hardly a member of the European Union or NATO, so the sanctions don't necessarily apply to them like it does NATO and European Union countries. They're only a loose member of the European Union, mostly for border customs and economic reasons of imports and exports to Switzerland. But beyond that, they're not really a full-fledged member that could kind of have the will of the European Union swayed over them. So hypothetically, they could ship weapons to the Russians. However, that lands another problem. How do they get them out of Switzerland and through the entirety of the European Union into Russia? That would be a whole other problem on its own. So, to be honest with you, while they technically could do it, in reality, they can't, because they're bordered by European Union countries that wouldn't allow the Swiss to transport those weapons out of their own country through the European Union and then into Russia. So with that, I hope that answers the question fairly well, because in reality, that's also another good scapegoat for the Swiss. When you think about it, Matthew, they could sit there and go, we'll sell weapons to all involved parties. They can sell it to the Ukrainians, and the Europeans would allow the shipments of those weapons. But when the Russians want to buy anything from them, even if they can and have a reason to, the Swiss could go, oh man, tough luck. The train got stopped at the Swiss border. They're not allowing it to cross. And, you know, that's unfortunate. I guess we'll just have to hold that order until the sanctions are lifted and when the European Union allows it. We're so sorry. And they could just do that.
For me, honestly, if Switzerland's going to take the position that they're going to be neutral, I'm not even sure if they should be selling weapons at all.
And I would agree, but if for some reason the Swiss wanted to adhere to their neutrality clause in their constitution, they would have to sell something to everyone, and that kind of still works out in a way, because there's no way for them to sell anything to the Russians because they don't use the same ammunition that the Swiss produce, and also there's really no way for them to transport it out of Switzerland and into Russia. So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well, but in my opinion, they shouldn't be selling arms either. But with that, we are on to the next one. And also, I think I've seen a viewer, and this is a good point, bringing up that Mark Felton actually made a video, and I have actually heard of this beforehand because I've looked at a lot of the Swiss during the Second World War. They did send medical teams to help out the Nazi Germans in the Second World War in the Eastern Front in 1942 and 1943. The reason behind that was that the Swiss were trying to see about using brand new surgical procedures, and instead of having to use it on Swiss people, they could use it on German people and see if it worked or not, and they could test this out under battlefield conditions. Those were the reasons why they did that. Was it breaking their neutrality? Not really, because it was still humanitarian aid, and humanitarian aid can be sent without necessarily breaking neutrality. It's military aid that breaks neutrality, not humanitarian aid. And they never provided any arms or weapons to the Germans. They only provided pretty much doctors and surgeons in small numbers on the Eastern Front to try out new medical practices. So in a way, it was borderline breaking neutrality. In reality, it didn't really, and no one made a big deal of it all too much. On top of that, the Swiss, in the meantime, were still shooting down German bombers and fighters that were flying into Swiss airspace and then interning the crews that ended up landing on the Swiss side of the border. Also, at some points, the Swiss were still getting in firefights with the Germans on the Swiss-German border because the Germans were trying to encroach into Swiss territory to see how far they could get. Just as a one-off instance, and then the Swiss would exchange fire with them, and the Germans would retreat back across the border. So it's a little odd to talk about the Swiss in the Second World War, because neutrality is really confusing when you look at it and how the Swiss work it, but that's generally how the story went. So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And also, a lot of people are saying that the Swiss will not get a free ticket or a free lunch ticket off of the West if they got invaded by anyone. And no, they wouldn't be given one. They're entirely on their own. That's how they view themselves. They don't ever view themselves as getting support from anyone or getting any favors in the future. They view themselves as being entirely on their own in the world because they are a neutral country. So with that,
I would beg to differ. If there was something that broke out, I guarantee you they would all of a sudden change it. They wouldn't be neutral anymore, and they'd want everyone's help, because there's no way they'd just let themselves get invaded and not, try something.
Well, that's been their doctrine over the course of history. Like in World War II, they made the redoubt in the Alps, and they didn't plan on anyone coming to help them out. And then during the Cold War, they didn't join anything. They didn't join the United Nations. They didn't join NATO. They didn't join the European Union for the large part. They reluctantly joined that in around 2014 or 2006. They are so neutral that they're not going to count on support for anyone. Their military doctrine revolves around, if we get attacked, how in the world do we keep ourselves alive just off of what Switzerland can do? That's just completely what they work off of. They even do that to the point that up until, I believe it was 2007, all of the bridges and tunnels in Switzerland were rigged with explosives to blow up, because if anyone touched Switzerland, they were going to blow everything up to high heaven before they surrendered.
Huh.
It's just the way the Swiss work. They're a very weird country. Not weird as in their people, they're just weird in how they work, because they're a neutral country and they adhere to that militantly. They will kill to remain neutral, which sounds almost as a hyperbole. It kind of is, but that's how they work. It's just the oddest thing on earth.
I just find it interesting that they're a landlocked country and they're like the only one that adheres to that policy like that. It seems like that's mainly the reason that they adhere to it.
It probably is. But back in the day, all the way up until 1815, the Swiss were actually known as some of the most formidable fighters in Europe. They would have massive amounts of Swiss citizens that would travel abroad to become mercenaries in foreign armies, and countries would pay top dollar to get Swiss mercenaries. That's why the Pope and the Vatican still have the Swiss Guard, the Pontifical Swiss Guard, because it's a carryover from those pretty much ancient times in Europe where the Swiss were considered the best fighters of everyone out there. Hell, the Swiss were so good that they were even referenced several times in Shakespeare's plays where they talked about Switzers, which were the name of Swiss mercenaries at the time.
Interesting.
Yeah, so the Swiss are a very interesting, bizarre country just from start to finish. I highly suggest that you all read Swiss history and learn about them and why they're so weird in their regards of how they interact with the world in a diplomatic way. But with that, I think we're on to the second question, if I'm correct. Wait a minute, no, I think this is the final one, actually.
It's going to be the final one, and this one goes to Rob Bertram, who puts in a $50 donation. He says, LSA, why does Enforcer Matt only have 464 subscribers on his YouTube channel? Come on, man. You can do better than that. Hit him up. Slava Ukraine and LSA. Thank you, Rob. I appreciate the shout out. Rob sponsored a shout out on the channel. That's crazy. Thank you, Rob.
And I thank you so much for the support, Rob. I guess that is Matthew's advertising budget for the month.
Yes.
Matthew's getting a free sponsored advertising budget. Matthew does only have something like 400 something subscribers on his channel. Let me go there and look at it. So, Matt, right here, 467 subscribers. There's one video on here that he made as an original one that was put up a month ago. Beyond that, he hasn't uploaded much. We're wondering if Matthew's actually okay. We're wondering if he's fallen off the face of the earth or something, because we haven't seen him upload a lot. Do you know where Matthew is, Matthew?
Matt's been procrastinating, to say the least. It's tough to like balance time between this channel and my channel, because this one, especially what we got going on in the background, takes up a ton of time thinking about it.
Oh, it does. It takes a lot of time. I can tell you. And we're still working on something in the background. But we can't really say. We can only let the rumors circle around, and you know, some of them are almost right on the money, some of them are not on the money so much, but keep on guessing. Anyways, make sure to go over there and subscribe to Matthew's channel. He has one of his own, and while he doesn't upload a lot, he does have a pretty
Hey,
good
you aren't
video.
subscribed? Click that button right now.
I forgot. I never subscribed. But now that I've subscribed, y'all should subscribe. So with that, we're now going to be moving on from this little plug. Make sure to go over to Enforcer Matt's channel and subscribe to it, because he does international news, war reporting, and more. And I think you've only done the and more part. The gun review thing, because the other two videos are just copies from this channel. But with that, we are moving on to the next one. And thank you so much for the support and plugging Matthew's channel. Let's update, refresh the page, and see what he's got now. 505. You just got 50 subscribers from that shout out. Wow.
That's crazy. And also, Packrat said your bro isn't subscribed to the channel. Dang, LOL. Yeah, Packrat. Seriously, what's going on here?
I don't subscribe to a lot of channels. I've subscribed to a few, but not many. I don't know why. It's just something that I don't really do for some reason. But with that, we are moving out of this question segment. Thank you so much for plugging Matthew's channel, and thank you so much for the support to this one and helping it to keep running. And so with that, it's now time for us to move back into our location unknowns, starting off with our next clip where we saw a Russian ready to talk about war crimes.
Числа, рано утром, 5 утра, уже сказали, все, едьте, ебайте, типа, едете на войну. Я такой, нет, я сразу же в отказ пошел. Командирам говорю, что я не поеду. И они начали меня, ты чё, охуел, ты чё, там, хочешь сесть в тюрьму, там, угрозы пошли. Они были все с оружием вокруг меня стояли, что бы я сделал? В Липовке я чем занимался, так как человек, который, грубо говоря, старался косить от войны, там сымитировал отравление, что мне трясет. Заставляли меня всякую низкую работу делать, как обслуживающий персонал типа из меня сделали. Большинство других пацанов были в Андреевке.
Скажите, пожалуйста, вы были в Андреевке?
В Андреевке был только когда вот мне командир забирал там якобы прикрытие ему. Стоим, и вижу, пацаны бегут, убегают. А потом я впоследствии узнал, что эти ребята были те, кто изнасиловали мать с дочкой. 4 было. Будучи пьяными, они все это делали. Их взяли, просто уволили с армии, все. Их не осудили.
64-я мотострелковая бригада Вооруженных сил России прибыла в Бучу в середине марта. Это данные Генштаба украинского. Вы, как вы мне сами сказали, были в Украине до июня. Поэтому как вы могли отсидеться в Липовке, если ваша бригада была в Буче?
Я не знаю, я знаю только про себя, что я сидел в Липовке. Я про Бучу узнал только когда. Когда мы 29 марта отступали, когда мы обратно уезжали в Беларусь, и тогда мне опять появился доступ к интернету. Я других начал спрашивать солдат, типа, вы что, типа, вы что, в натуре это делали? Кто-то говорил, что это десантники все псковские сделали, так как они до начала спецоперации к нам приходили, у нас нашивки просили. Беларуси в Ливенки поехали. И в поезде я когда находился, пытался находить возможности уехать. А потом мой телефон взяли командиры, моральное насилие от них опять же получил, типа, фу, блядь, ты предатель, там, ты, блядь, никто, домой сейчас тебе кокнем, блядь. Я уже, кстати, дал тут показания в испанскую полицию, которая работает над военными преступлениями, также по геноциду. Надеюсь, что Россия будет платить репарации, восстанавливать Украину. Я чувствую позор, когда я вижу российский паспорт.
Well, that's the end of the video, of course, courtesy from Radio Free Europe. And a Russian soldier right there is openly admitting that in the Bucha Hospital European area and in Adrivka, just areas northeast of Kyiv, northwest of Kyiv, correction, there were many Ukrainian civilians and citizens that were killed by Russian forces and also violated in other means while they were there. Of course, I don't think that they should take this man's word that he just, for some reason, was never involved in any of it. He is, of course, by Western convention, innocent until proven guilty, but they should also investigate him and try and see if there are any connections in between him and the war crimes that were committed there, and if he had any part in them. With that, we're now going to be moving on from that clip, but once again showing the pretty much concrete evidence there is, because now we also have a witness statement from a Russian soldier about the war crimes that were committed. Whether he was involved or not, and whether he's trying to make it sound like he wasn't involved or was involved, he is admitting to the straight guilt of the Russian forces that were there and what they were committing while he was in the area. We're now going to be moving on into the next bit of Location Unknown news, where we saw the first evidence of an S-400 system being destroyed. Throughout the course of this war, we've seen a large amount of Russian S-300 air defense systems been destroyed. This is the first one, however, where it was an S-400. This is the, I guess you could say, upgraded version of the S-300. It is new and improved. I guess you could call it the PAC-3 version of the Patriot missile defense system. And we can see right here that the, I guess you could say, electronics or the systems here behind the cab line up exactly with the one that was destroyed right here. And real quick, let me pull up an S-300 to show y'all the difference. So we have the clip right here, well, a picture of an S-300, and we can see that the systems here are entirely different. The S-300 is missing these two apparati right here, this one and this one. It has this piece, but not these two. And we can see that they are present on this S anti-air system, but they are not on this S-300 in this picture, which clearly shows us that it is certainly an S-400. Excuse me. We'll also show an S-400 here on picture, and you can see the difference is, well, hang on, let me go and find a good picture of it. Not that launcher. We want to find the exact one. Come on, work with me. Work with me, Bidliat. Work with me. I can't find it. Trust me, bro. Trust me. So with that, that's the end of that clip. We have one right here. We have a picture that shows an S-400 side by side, and that is certainly one destroyed. The first one in the war. It's a fairly big deal because the S-400 is supposed to be a decent amount more competent than the S-300 system. A vast improvement on that former iteration. And so seeing one destroyed means a pretty good deal. It means that they are destructible. They are not impervious to air attacks, because apparently this may have been destroyed by an air attack. And also, the final thing on the list, probably one of the most important ones, the Russians have probably lost an incredibly expensive and rare anti-air defense system that is irreplaceable. With that, we're now going to be moving on from this little bit of Location Unknown news and on into the next, where we saw the Russian losses. And let me make sure there is a duplicate here. So we're going to check out this one, because the other, well, actually, it's not a duplicate. I just remember what the other one's about. These are the Russian losses as of today. Another 770 Russian troops completely obliterated. Another 6 armored personnel carriers completely destroyed. Another 7 supply trucks, 3 tanks, 7 artillery pieces, 4 drones, and unfortunately, no skid steers. Once again, sadly, the skid steers have gone untouched and unmolested. However, the rest of the Russian ground forces have once again had a very poor day. Once again, the infantry losses are most likely an approximation. It also says it right down here below this. It says approximation to be confirmed. So if y'all are saying, you know, all that stuff, it is to be confirmed. This is an approximation. It's not exact. But still, the losses are still considerable. We're now going to be moving on to the next bit because I thought it would be nice to look through the past. We are getting even closer each passing day to day 365. And here were the losses as of January 19th, right here. We can see that they had lost 118,000 soldiers, they had lost 6,000 APCs, and so on. And let's go back through time. We have all of the months listed here on the Kyiv Independence. So here's January, here's December, here's November. Also, look how big the number is of APCs lost in between just December and January 19th. A whole extra about 200 of them. And then in November, and then October, and then in September, and then in August, and then in July, in June, in May, in April, in March, and then on February 28th, which was 4 days after the start of the war. And we can see that the way that they've identified what's been destroyed has changed greatly. We've seen that they've also added some stuff over time, and the list has become a little bit more extensive. But still, the losses have been skyrocketing, and it's very interesting to see how far, in a sense, the Ukrainian armed forces have come in being able to inflict damage onto the Russian forces. Also today, unlike last time, now General Milley, who once again has been a point of controversy on this channel for his accuracy in his casualty reports, has come out today and said the Russians have lost well over 100,000 soldiers. The last time he came out, he said that the Russians and the Ukrainians combined had lost 100,000. So now apparently he's just bumped it up miraculously over the past 2 months to around 150,000 killed in total. So, you know, always fun. Always love how the guy, I guess, in the higher up in the U.S. military always just comes up with the numbers off the top of his head. Anyways, we're now going to be moving on from that look back in time and on to our last clip of Location Unknown News, where we saw a Ukrainian tank under fire, if I remember correctly. Well, actually, a Ukrainian tank firing at the Russians and putting them under fire. So here's the clip. When you see the tank shell hitting the ammunition depot, setting it alight, and once again, quite warm. That is the end of the clip, but very nice to see. We're now moving on from the location unknowns and out of the area and on into the northeast, because we've gotten a couple of clips around the Svatove area, starting off with our first one where we saw a problem for the mobilized. A small problem. I'm sure it'll be fixed fairly soon.
15 октября мы подписали контракт, 23 октября мы уже здесь. То есть 23 октября ночью нас вывезли под Макеевку. По документам мы числимся в Чебуркуле. Как бы моя жена, конечно, там тоже всех этих депутатов на уши подняла, юристов. Что, говорит, почему, говорит, так-то? За октябрь месяц прислали деньги 9 тысяч, за ноябрь 19 тысяч. И ей говорят, так он, говорит, сам виноват, то, что он остался, говорит, в Чебуркуле без должности. Она говорит, как он в Чебуркуле, если он, говорит, там под Макеевкой? Кто-то там сидит где-то на боевых базах, на учениях с августа месяца, с сентября месяца. Они деньги получают нормально, все. Они дома, там где-то. Мы здесь, и мы числимся где-то дворниками, и нам платят просто-напросто копейки. Нас много таких. И вот чем они мотивируют? Почему мы находимся по документам в Чебуркуле? А они говорят, у них нету должности штатной. Мы в штате не состоим, поэтому мы в Чебуркуле. Но на самом деле, как-то же мы сюда приехали. Дело не в том, что как бы за деньги. Мы поехали, да, не за деньги, но государство обещало, говорили, все будут все платить. Ну так, извините, я за отпитки не бегу, а почему государство тогда бежит за отпитки?
Very interesting. He has a problem with not being paid, and he says, the reason I came here wasn't to be paid, then just shut up and deal with it. Don't you love Russia? You're a patriot, aren't you? So don't complain about it. Just know that they lied to you, and now you've been swindled into sitting out in the front lines and getting blown away. So I don't really know what the guy's complaining about. He ought to just cope. So with that, we're now going to be moving on from that little clip and on into the next one from Svatove, where we actually saw, for the first time ever, a T-90M not being destroyed, but actually in action for a little bit. So let's take a look at it, and let's see if it's markedly different from a normal T-90. Oh, cheesy.
Oh.
Oh, cheesy. We can see the T-90M on the move. No infantry support, just traveling through a town on its own. Once again, the way the Russians like to use these things. And they are definitely scooting this thing around. We now see the T-90 down here at the bottom left where the mouse cursor is. It appears to be firing up the street. Once again, with no infantry support. And, yeah, it kind of just looks like it's a T-90. You know, it's not really doing anything impressive. You know, it's not going Rambo on anyone. It's just a normal T-90 with some extra armor. And it's just firing off some rounds. You know, just kind of doing its thing, mulling around. Now you see it scooting off. It looks like it's dragging something behind it, like a piece of the tank or something.
Why are they driving it like it's stolen? Like they just took it off the lot?
I don't know. That's a good question, actually. But you see the Z marked on the side. But they were driving that thing like there's no tomorrow. I think they're scared of it getting hit and destroyed.
They're like dragging junk behind it and everything.
But that's the end of the clip. And once again, for the first time ever, we're not seeing it get destroyed. It actually was used a little bit. I'm sure it'll be destroyed by next week. But with that, there's not a lot going on in the Northeast. And if we look at the front line and go over the past 24 hours, you'll see nothing's happened. Nothing's changed up here. It's just a small amount of activity going on. We're now going to be moving down into the area of Bila Orivka, where we also saw some Russians get hit under a bridge by an auto 30mm gun, most likely from a BMP-2. I have to mute the music there, but we can see the autocannon firing under the bridge, the rounds hitting and some of the tracers ricocheting. That looks really nice, actually. Ow, I'm getting a really bad headache. Toasty. That's the end of the clip, but pretty nice to see all around. Not much to say. We're now going to be moving on into the Bakhmut area. Now it's time for us to go over everything that's happened here. And to go over some quick frontline analysis, here's the past 24 hours. Here's yesterday. Here's today. They've moved up a little bit in the Klishkivka area. It looks like they're still trying to move to the T-0504. And here in the north, they have been able to take another field. Once again, remember that that's at an estimated loss of around 770 Russian soldiers dead, just to take a small area near Klishkivka and also one in Soledar. And so now moving on into the video clips, we saw in the Soledar area, the Wagner once again getting hit by a drone. When you see the bomb was dropping, we got to mute the music because while it's all nice and lo-fi, we get copyrighted for that. We now see a Russian on the run. That ought to be a movie title, Matthew, Russian on the run.
Yeah.
But you see him moving and scooting and booting. He's just trying to get out of there. It appears the drone keeps following him. It's just like, no matter what he does, it's like above him and looking down at him, so it's really easy to see him. And he keeps on trying to hug trees. It's the first Russian I've ever seen that actually loves trees. Look, there he is again. He's hugging another one. I love you, tree, Bliet. You remind me of girl at home. Steve. He's still scooting. He's scooting like a little rat.
Is this like not sped up?
No, I think this is like normal speed. But with
That guy's bucking it.
but with that, I see in a clip, and this guy down there is scooting. Like, he is moving. He ought to go to the Olympics for speed walking. With that, we're going to be moving on into the next clip from the Soledar area, where we also saw the battles still occurring around the area. Once again, courtesy to Radio Free Europe.
Перебуває безпосередньо в окопах неподалік лінії зіткнення, власне, в піхоти. Тут, як завжди, є заглиблення, холодна мерзла земля і бій по флангу. Тут більш спокійніша ділянка, але Бійці пильно стежать за лінією фронту, оскільки російські війська, зокрема ПВК «Вагнер», намагаються пройти, використовуючи усі рельєфи, пройти чи то в тил, чи на територію, яка зараз контролюється Збройними силами. І от потрібно стежити дуже пильно.
Дальней посадки підари зайшли туди, і ми оттуда до початку посадки з боєм виходили 2,5 часа. Отходили, оттягувались. Тоже оттягувались по максимуму, вийшли вже, поки нас забрали. У кожного патронів по нолям вже було все, на мінімалках вийшли. Оттягувались на розстоянні голосового контакту з противником. Важко, звісно, коли вони зі всіх сторін лізуть. Ну, це таке. Ось одного нашого затрьохсотили, ось є фоточка. Хлопець в рубашці родився, що реально кульове в шию і що так на вихід. Нічого важливого так не зачепило, слава Богу. Та й таке.
Nice little launch right there.
Так, противотанковим комплексом бійці запускають ракету в бік російських військ, де може бути або техніка, або укріплення російської армії.
Нас штурмують щоденно. Тут відбиті вагнерівці до нас топають. В них кількість, напевно, безкінечна. Ну, за цю ніч було знищено на правому фланзі 30 і на лівому 12. Там потім відео вам покажу, там валяються вони. І так щоденно у нас по 10, по 15, приходить орків, умирає. Ну, вперлися вони в наші посадки і от пробують тут пройти. Ну, не виходить в них. Можливість накліпати орків тут і зараз. Отут у нас є зараз така можливість. Ми кліпаємо їх, дай Боже, але нам потрібні ці пункти.
Ooh, dang, that thing has a nice sound to it.
Man, he's not wearing hearing protection either. That's crazy.
What? What was that?
What? What are you saying, man?
What happened? What happened? Listen, as the President of the United States, if I do it, I'm not a crook. Sounds like someone's breaking in. But anyways, it's time for us to move on. Of course, courtesy to Radio Free Europe for providing that interesting footage around the area of Soledar and showing us how the fights are still ongoing. With that, we're moving on to the next clip where we saw the Azov in Bakhmut as well. We could see them being supported by a YPR 765. You see a wounded soldier right there, I'm guessing. See a pretty heavy firefight going on near a berm. We see them firing over and through a fence.
Подай магаз. Присядь, ниже, ниже. Он у бакалавра возьми магазы заряженные. Оттягиваюсь. Иду! Давай, держу!
You now see them moving around and repositioning as gunfire continues in the distance. And with that, that's the end of the clip, but giving you a little peek at what the Azov unit is doing in the area and, of course, helping to hold the line. With that, we're now moving further on down and into the area of Bladatny, where we saw kamikaze drones once again. Let's take a look, see. Matthew, we can see here the beautiful drones of the Ukrainian army.
I'm impressed they can pick those things up.
I think what we're looking at down there are some Russians. Some pesky Russians. And we can see the kamikaze drone flying right in and hitting those Russians dead on. Someone said nice.
Now, see, the dog was smart. It actually left, but the Russians didn't.
Dogs know danger, man. They do. They're very smart. And we can see right there another kamikaze drone hitting right onto the Russians. Oh man, apparently that Nixon wasn't good enough because some people are saying that's Reagan, some people are saying that's Nixon, or is Yogi Bear doing Nixon? Man, that wasn't a good one.
No.
You said it's supposed to be Nixon. Yeah, it was. Apparently it wasn't good enough. We can see another kamikaze drone hitting another building that the Russians are using. We now see them going for the river venues. And that's the end of the clip, and a pretty fiery and explosive outro. We're now going to be moving on from that clip and on into the next one further down the line in the center of the Bakhmut area, where we saw the 40th Separate Artillery Brigade at work. Pretty solid hit, and the beat was also pretty solid as well.
Jaga, jaga!
Boof. Jaga, jaga! Boof. Bada boom.
Bang.
Bow. Poof. Jaga jaga.
Ooh, smoky.
Fiery. Igor! Man, when they make jokes like that, it makes me want to mute the stream. You see them hitting more Russians inside of the forest here.
Igor. I have Russians like hear that, like, you know, like Mike Myers. You know,
I
like,
wonder.
Igor.
You know, actually, Matthew, I think that's Jason Voorhees.
Oh. Well, I don't have those memorized, so I get a pass.
I've got them memorized. You should. But I'm just kidding. We can see the artillery still blasting away the Russians in the tree line. And with that, that's pretty much the end of the clip, but nice to see. And also, neat little skull coming flying in. And so with that, that's the end of the clip. And we're now moving on inside of Bakhmut, where we got another update from Bakhmut, from the man of Bakhmut. And so, without further ado, here's the video.
Доброго ранку, Україна. На календарі 20 січня 23.
Oh, it's paused. Let me skip. There we go.
В конгломерації Бахмут-Солідар мало що помінялося. Постійні придумування нової тактики найманцями, які оперують в районі Бахмут-Солідар, приводять тільки до значних втрат серед їхнього особового складу, якщо їх так можна назвати. Тому що людей, які там за 3 копійки йдуть на вірну смерть, їх складно назвати воїнами чи солдатами. Це найманці. Не було життя, сиділи в тюрмах, немає життя його і тут. Недовго вони живуть, прийшовши вбивати українців. По Солидару там докладно інформує суспільство наш побратим Мадяр. Ну, краще, чим він там вже сказати і показати, мабуть, складно. А от ці всі дев'яточки, що вони там попридумали, пробігають, залазять. Так Солидар там зрубаний, там заховатися практично нема, де і тому і мало застосовується їхня бронетехніка, тому що вона практично вся знищується. Арта, міномети, під пильним оком Валькірії Мадяра. Живуть вони недовго. І всі ті їхні побєди, ну, якщо такі є побєди, то хай викладуть усіх, то закінчимо це питання. По Бахмуту тривають штурми і на Красну Гору, і на Кліщіївку. Кліщіївку там артилерія практично обнулила. Намагається туди полізти, але там підрозділи тримають лінію оборони. Арта, міномети здійснюють підтримку. розвідка, коригування. Все працює в тандемі. Багато з того, що хотілося б розказати, не можна розказувати. Як там працюють наші окремі підрозділи, спеціальні підрозділи. Але колись це все буде в публічному полі обнародовано. Зараз, якщо коротко, Бахмут під прапором України, наш жовто-блакитний стяг майорів над ним. В Бахмуті підрозділи тримають лінію оборони. Громогласне заявлення всяких там виродків, фашистів, вони не мають нічого спільного з тим, що відбувається насправді. Це війна, на війні всяке. Десь наступили, десь відступили, це називається просто маневр. Тому, друзі, не хвилюйтеся. Все, що потрібно, і навіть те, що не потрібно, робиться. Десь там на протязі неділі будуть, мабуть, новини інші, більш цікаві. Але то потім. Тримаємо стрій. Слава Україні. Ви найкращі.
And so with that's the end of the clip, and once again, another update from the Bakhmut area. We're now going to be moving on into our next bit of frontline footage, where we saw Bakhmut today again. And we're going to have to mute that because there's a song about Bakhmut. It's kind of catchy, though, I'm not going to lie. We can see them now driving through the city streets. We can see rubble all over, destroyed buildings, fallen trees. We see another vehicle trying to get through there as fast as possible. We see the filmer saying it's very painful to see and observe this, how what is dear to us is being destroyed. But on the other hand, the experience of World War II, especially the experience of Warsaw, shows that even in the ruins, it's possible to defend. He's talking about the Warsaw Uprising of 1944. Thus, good wins over evil, and I believe that everything will be fine. We will rebuild our beautiful Ukraine, and we will rebuild our beautiful Bakhmut. But our enemies will never rebuild their mentality, roast, and their view of life. To be more or less humane. It was a crazy horde, and it will remain that. And that's the end of the clip, but a little tour through a small part of Bakhmut showing the level of destruction that has occurred throughout the city. With that, we're now moving on further south in Bakhmut, where we saw more destroyed buildings filmed in another area. This time by the New York Times. So we can't play the audio, but we could show y'all what they saw. Massive craters that had pretty much turned into ponds in front of, I believe, one of the administrative buildings right there. See another large crater caused by Russian shelling. We see them going through the city center of Bakhmut. The building on the other side of the street has been photographed many times. There's not a single building that has not been hit in Bakhmut, is what was said by the reporter. There are also destroyed buildings. These are also destroyed buildings. And that's the end of the clip, but once again showing the level of destruction that the Russians have brought to this town in their aimless pursuit of trying to conquer Ukraine with nearly no end in sight. Moving on into the next clip, we also saw the Ukrainians messing around further down the line and having a fun time, and I guess you could say a little giggle. Here's the clip. Remember, Matthew, we cannot joke. This is no laughing matter.
Русский Иван, сдавайся, я принесу тебе водка и колбаса, блядь.
Dude, this guy's bouncing around like he's boxing someone.
Братан, сейчас буде мій виход. Сейчас буде мій виход. Пошел, пошел, пошел. Об'єктив захвачений.
It jammed. That's the end of the clip, but they're having fun, and that's all that counts. And so with that, we're going to be moving on from that little clip and on into the southern flank of the Bakhmut front, where we saw some Kadyrovites having fun in the sun. That was so rudely interrupted. We can see them all sitting around, chilling, drinking bottled water, sitting near their goofy BMP that's smoking. We can see this guy now walking up to the smoking BMP that's probably on fire. See some guys laying out, having some fun. I don't think those guys are having a fun time, Matthew. I think they're laying out in the sun trying to get a tan because they look chalky white.
They're definitely not having any fun, I can say that.
No, I would have to say, Matthew, that the kind of fun they're having is completely sanguinary in nature, at least in the color of the towels that they got around them. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on. If you'll get it, you get it. I mean, that was so weirdly worded on my end. I don't think anyone's going to get that. But with that, we're now moving on from the southern flank in the area of Bakhmut, and those are all the videos we've gotten from the area where we see so little movement, but such a high amount of casualties. Moving on into our next bit of news, way down on the southern front, here is the video where we saw a Russian offensive stopped completely in its tracks. This Russian force with around 50 infantry and 3 tanks was practically wiped out by the Ukrainians today, and the assault was stopped. When you see the drone moving out in the field, we can see the 3 tanks out there in the distance moving forward. We now see that they have come to a complete stop, and Ukrainian artillery is landing right on top of them. We now see the 3rd tank's gotten really smart and is moving out of the area. We now see the Russian infantry all just kind of wandering around, you know, without aim as usual. The artillery falling right on top of them, making sure that some of them are getting those sweet metal splinters while I have a terrible voice crack. We now see the Russians moving through the trees, just doing the dang. See some of them sitting down, lying around.
Was that guy aiming the gun toward the dirt?
I think he was. We can see a whole you see a whole lot more of them just chilling. Wow, that's a lot of guys. Look at the formations they got going on. Like perfect spacing, perfect formations. They really got this whole thing planned out. We can see that they finally made it to the tree line. Sorry for the laggy looking footage. Apparently it was just uploaded laggy. The artillery is now coming down on top of these guys, and it looks like they're getting the brunt of it as well. Oh, wow, a lot of them went to sleep. With that, that's the end of the clip, and it always is good to know that there's just some guys having a nap out there in the fields of Ukraine. And it looks like got really pissed off that a lot of his friends are now falling asleep, and he's going, "Hey, Ukraine, we give up their crappy country." So with that, we're now moving on into Dnipro, where we saw some collaborators also detained today as well. They look like the kind of guys who would collaborate.
What they were collaborating on?
Well, according to the caption, they were pretty much artillery spotters for the Russians, trying to find Ukrainian positions and somehow report them to Russian forces so that way they can be hit. And I think this guy was literally caught with his pants down because he's only wearing underwear. This guy was also caught sleeping in his bed, and he looks kind of a little startled by it. This guy, I think he was caught doing something. That's why we're not seeing the lower part.
Yeah, they look like they've been caught red-handed here or something.
This guy here, he's going to act like he didn't do anything. This man here, for some reason, looks like somebody from the southern United States. I didn't do nothing, old boy. And then the last guy here, he looks like, I don't even know what to describe what this guy looks like. He's got a shirt that has Japanese on it, which is really interesting. So
a very diverse group.
A very eclectic group of fellows that have ratted out their fellow countrymen are now getting to serve some prison time for it. With that, That was our final bit of news for the night, and now it's time for us to get up to Kyiv to cover the speech from President Volodymyr Zelenskyy here on day 332 of the war in Ukraine. And so without further ado, here's the speech from President Volodymyr Zelenskyy.
Бажаю здоров'я, шановні українці. Сьогодні день Рамштайну і оборонних новин для України, які тиждень за тижнем приносять наш дипломатичний марафон. Не все можна публічно оголошувати, про що ведуться розмови у форматі Рамштайну. Це закрита дискусія, і так має бути. Але загалом можна підсумувати, що сьогоднішній Рамштайн зміцнить нашу стійкість. Партнери принципові у своєму ставленні, вони будуть підтримувати Україну, скільки це необхідно для нашої перемоги. Так, ще доведеться поборотись за постачання сучасних танків, але щоденно ми робимо сильнішу очевидність безальтернативності того, що рішення щодо танків має бути ухвалене. Я звернувся сьогодні до учасників зустрічі у Рамштайні, нашої контактної групи з питань оборони. Я дякую усім партнерам, які чітко підтримали українську позицію в дискусіях, що відбулись. Загалом, за тиждень вдалося досягти кількох речей. Це те, що дав наш дипломатичний марафон, який триває від мого візиту у Вашингтон, дзвінки і переговори щоденно, публічні та непублічні. Вдалося суттєво посилити наш артилерійський кулак, дуже вагомо, і гарматами, і снарядами. Є хороші результати щодо бронетехніки. Додали кілька сотень бойових машин до нашого арсеналу. Значні результати по ракетах для реактивних систем і для наших зенітників. Один з найбільших оборонних пакетів, оголошений Сполученими Штатами. Я дякую за нього президенту Байдену, усім конгресменам, усім американцям, які знають, що свобода не може програти. Дякую нашим європейським союзникам, усім країнам, які цього тижня зробили чергові кроки в підтримці нашого спільного захисту. Данія, Чехія, Естонія, Латвія, Литва, Польща, Словаччина, Великобританія, Фінляндія, Нідерланди та інші. Дякую вам. Дякую Канаді, особисто прем'єр-міністру Трюдо. Єдине в усьому цьому, що варто підкреслити, це час. Час постачання. Кожна домовленість має виконуватись максимально швидко для нашої оборони. Наступний тиждень, до якого ми вже готуємось, має також принести свої оборонні плоди. Сьогодні зустрівся з американськими сенаторами, які прибули в Київ. Панове Грем, Блюменталь, Уайтхаус. Дякую за змістовні переговори. Вкрай важливо цього року не збавляти динаміку нашої співпраці України та Сполучених Штатів в усіх сферах. Я впевнений, так і буде. Головна тематика – звичайна оборона, захист нашого неба, танки для України, необхідні нам для звільнення нашої території, далекобійні ракети. Почув розуміння наших потреб. Говорив з президентом Туреччини Ердоганом про загальну ситуацію на полі бою в Україні та у нашому Чорноморському регіоні, про те, як реалізувати конкретні пункти нашої формули миру, корисною абсолютно для всіх у світі. Я дякую пану президенту за підтримку нашого бачення безпеки. Сьогодні ж відбулася церемонія вручення вірчих грамот новими послами держав-партнерів, які прибули в Україну. Це Фінляндія, Кіпр, Австрія та Лівія. Підписав указ про нагородження наших воїнів. 153 військовослужбовці Збройних сил України. Бійці 30-ї, 53-ї, 92-ї, 93-ї і 110-ї механізованих бригад, 56-ї мотопіхотної бригади, 60-ї піхотної бригади і 102-ї бригади тероборони. Я дякую усім, хто воює за Україну. І ще одне. Сьогодні день пам'яті захисників Донецького аеропорту. Це була одна з найбільш важких і принципових битв для України. Це була битва, в якій сучасні українці віднайшли в собі нашу одвічну міцність. Те, що вберегло Україну, те, що проявляє наш сталевий дух у надзвичайній стійкості і хоробрості українців на полі бою. Я дякую кожному, хто тоді витримав. Дякую усім, хто тоді допомагав. Світла пам'ять усім, хто віддав своє життя за Україну. Після 24 лютого, після 2014 року і в усі часи, коли наш народ захищав себе. Слава Україні!
And with that, that is the end of the speech from President Volodymyr Zelenskyy here on day 332 of the war in Ukraine. And that also wraps up our daily news summary. I thank you all so much once again for watching so far. We're about to be moving into the question segment. And one thing that I have seen, and something that I would like to address, is that some viewers I've seen, or people who have watched this channel, sometimes complain that the streams are 3.5 hours long. And, you know, I'm going to say this. The stream, in all intensive purposes, as far as the news is concerned, ends right now, every single night. Once we get through that speech from President Zelenskyy, this stream may as well be an entirely separate one. We start going through questions and support that helps us to keep the news segment running. So, really, in reality, these streams are only about an hour and 45 minutes to 2 hours long, but once we include the question segment, they're about 3.5 hours long. But beyond that, I thank you all so much once again for watching. If y'all did enjoy, make sure to hit the subscribe button and the like button if y'all enjoyed this news, and make sure to tune in, because we run this stream every single day of the week at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, covering the past 24 hours of the war in Ukraine, every day as it happens, except for Mondays. And when we come back on Tuesday, we cover the past 48 hours, so technically we never miss a single hour of the war here on this channel. And so with that, I thank you all so much once again for watching. We're now moving into the question segment, where we're going to address all the polls that have been put up, all of the super chats that have not been addressed so far. We're going to answer all of those, and also address as many live chats as possible. And so with that, what do we got, Matthew?
All right, so we have 2 polls to address during our final question segment. And the first one says, do you have Ukrainian family, or are you Ukrainian? It looks like 87% said no, I'm just a freedom supporter. 7% said I have Ukrainian family, while only 1% said I am Ukrainian and live in Ukraine. 4% said I'm Ukrainian and don't live in Ukraine. So surprisingly, a pretty good amount there that are actually Ukrainian and live in Ukraine. I know it's only 1%, but it's 1% of 1,278 votes. So pretty interesting. But Enforcer, what say you?
That is pretty wild. I didn't think there would be that many Ukrainians watching, and it's good to know that we are providing news to people inside of Ukraine, and I hope you'll find this to be worthwhile. And so with that, I hope we addressed that poll fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next poll says, how should Ukraine deal with Russian prisoners accused of war crimes? Example, civilian murders. Now this one, I saw some contention going on in the chat about some of the options here. So let's see what y'all said. It looks like 77% said hold them as a POW for prosecution. 5% said investigate and punish in the field. 14% said execute now if enough evidence. And 4% said unsure, undecided, or none of the above. So on this one, I'm going to have to say that even though, you know, some people's instinct is to get on the same level as the Russians, I think that's what makes Ukraine unique. And I wouldn't sacrifice their values simply to get even with evil people in Russia's military. So I'm going to go with the 77% that said hold them as a POW for prosecution. They should be given their due process, even though they are probably guilty of what they've been accused of. But nonetheless, they should do it the proper way. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to agree with the 77% as well that said they should be held as a POW. It would be very tough to execute them on the spot, because the Russians will probably start doing the same to Ukrainian soldiers, and that sets a very bad precedent. Not only that, it violates Ukrainian law, and I think that the Ukrainians, like Matthew said, I completely agree that they are on a moral high ground compared to the Russians, and it would not be good to stoop down to a Russian level, because then there's nothing that differentiates the Ukrainians from the Russians. And so with that, I hope that does address that poll fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, so that was our last poll. So we're moving on to our super chat questions. And up first, we have a $40 donation from the Urban Cover, who says Albania loves USA and Ukraine. Respect from Albania.
And thank you so much for the support, and I think you may be one of our first viewers from Albania. Albania is a really interesting country. I believe, if I remember the history correctly, y'all had a pretty insane dictator in charge of Albania at a time, and there are like millions of little concrete bunkers all over the place that were supposed to be used in defense of the country if it was invaded. I don't know if I can find those off the top of my head, and I don't know if I'm thinking about the right country, but let's drop down in the capital of Albania, and let's see what it looks like. Not that bad. Not that bad. Nice little tree-covered sidewalks and nicely paved roads and pretty decent-looking buildings. It's really nice looking, actually. Not bad at all. Also, the flag of
Not
Mm-hmm.
What?
I say what?
I said not bad.
Not bad at all. Now your turn. But still, thank you so much for the support, and thank you for being one of our Albanian viewers in the Elite Spring Army. And good to know that the Elite Spring Army stretches far and wide, all the way from Ukraine to Albania to Hungary to Poland, Germany, France, Britain, Sweden, Norway. I think we have a Elite Spring Army soldier in every country in the world, pretty much. And that's really crazy to think about. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope we did address that comment fairly well, and thank you for helping this channel to keep on running, because if it wasn't for a viewer like you, and loads of viewers like you, this channel wouldn't have been possible. And so with that, thank you so much once again, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one goes to BC Skyman, who puts in a $20 donation, but BC didn't leave a comment, but he left a super sticker, and sadly, I can't remember what the super sticker was showing on it. But BC, thank you very much for the support once again. And if you're still around, it's good to have you once again. So, Enforcer, what say you?
And welcome back, BC Skyman. You have been in the live chat, and I thank you so much once again for the support. And also, you didn't leave a comment. That is very typical of BC Skyman nowadays, is that he just sends in the support and doesn't leave a comment. But I do thank you so much once again for it. It means a lot to us that you've continuously helped this channel to keep on running. And if it wasn't for you, BC Skyman, this channel may have run out of steam a long time before, because it isn't just support in super chats that helps us to keep this thing running. It's also people who just stick around regularly and just support us by saying it's a great show and everyone appreciates us running it. You've been definitely one of those people, and an old guard for sure. So I got to thank you so much once again for the support, BC Skyman. Also, I got to congratulate you once again on having such an impressive car collection, and thank you so much for helping this channel to keep on running. And so with that, we are going to be moving on to the next one, but of course, a huge shout out to a massive channel legend.
Yes, indeed. And up next, we have a $20 super chat from Mark Sova, who says, what do you think about the Russian Wagner defector saying that the reason dead Russians weren't sent back home was to avoid paying insurance?
I believe that's entirely true, because if there's a dead body, they will definitely be paying insurance on that thing because it's there and there's proof that the guy died. So Matty got a laugh on that one, I think.
So on that thing.
Yeah, on that thing. I mean, like, it's not a person anymore. It's just an inanimate object. It's a corpse. Speaking of which, there was one hell of a dead deer on the highway today. It painted the whole highway red. And I saw it going to college. I was like, holy moly. I was like, that deer got shredded. But moving on from that, I gotta say, it's something that they're definitely probably doing. If I had to take a guess, it's pretty much a certainty. And so with that, I thank you so much for the support. I hope that does address the question fairly well. And also, you know something really interesting, Matthew? I was thinking about that deer, and it made me start thinking about all the things we've seen. You and me have both seen dead bodies on interstates.
Yes, I've seen a very, very graphic one. Somebody got hit by a car, and it was ugly. I won't describe it because I'm sure nobody wants to hear that, but it was bad.
Well, I wasn't in the car when Matthew saw that one. I got to see a dead body in the middle of while I was running the stream. I think it was about 3 months ago at this point. Saw a dead body driving through Atlanta because I took a very rare day trip to drive out to Atlanta, look at something, and come back. And when I was coming back, I saw that a Dodge Charger had run headlong, so it's probably like 80 miles an hour because the whole roof was sheared off, and ran straight into the back of the trailer in the 18-wheeler, and the driver, suffice it to say, had lost his head, and also his hands, and they were on the road. So that was really gross, but, you know, that's something weird to think about, because I was thinking about that deer, and I was like, you know, that is... Some people are probably like, oh, that's terrible, but it's like, dang, you and me have both seen a lot worse than that, just in different situations. But anyways, with that, we are on to the next one. And I thank you so much for the support, and I hope that does address the question again.
Indeed. And up next, we have a $40 super chat from Martin Van Own, who does not leave a comment either. But Martin, thank you very much for the support. Martin is a longtime channel viewer. I'm not sure if it's Old Guard or Soldat, but either one. He's been around for a very long time, so thank you. But What say you, Enforcer?
I think Martin Van Owen is an old guard, if I'm correct. So I got to thank you so much for the support, Martin, because you were helping this channel to keep on running. Of course, if it wasn't for viewers like you, this wouldn't have been possible. And while you didn't leave a comment, you have been around for ages. And I'm sure the reason why you haven't left a comment is because you've said everything you wanted to say. So you're just like, hey, thanks for running it. So with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the support fairly well. But you didn't leave a comment for me to address, but still, that's fine. I thank you so much for it once again, though. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again. For the 5th time.
All right. Yes, sir. Yes, thank you very much. And up next, we have a $20 super chat from Panama Floyd, who says, have y'all heard any more about possible Ukrainian attempts to take Crimea? I thought they'd be strolling in shortly after taking Kherson. I'm still surprised they haven't secured river crossings on the Dnipro.
And thank you so much for the support. River crossings are incredibly difficult. You really have to have the advantage of surprise to be able to pull one off or hold a solid bridgehead. And no solid bridgehead really exists anymore across the Dnipro. And not only that, creating riverheads anywhere else, it's practically a massive swamp. So, in a way, the Russians can have a large defensive barrier in the Dnipro estuary down here, where the Ukrainians really can't push across without having to deal with the mire that the swamp is. So, a great point, but it's not really that surprising to me, because I used to say that once the Ukrainians made it to Kherson, that would probably be it. That front line would come to an end and just drop off the face of the earth, and it did. And we've never seen anything happen beyond the retaking of Kherson ever, rather than some small riverboat battles. And so with that, I hope that does address that comment fairly well, and I thank you so much once again for the support. And with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you for helping this Leaf Spring Army to keep on running and helping to support the Whatever Fund.
Yes, indeed. And up next, we have a $20 super chat from Psyops, the mod, who says, please be kind to one another. We are all here united in our support for Ukraine. You never know what someone is going through behind the screen. Why not be kind? It's not that hard. Slava Ukraine.
And thank you so much for the support, Psyops, and also Slava Ukraine. And of course, Psyops is a mod and does a really good job at drumming up the viewers and also making them hit the like button. By the way, hit the like button, y'all. And moving on from that, I would say, yes, be kind to one another. Unless if it's a bot, then you can go ham. But if it's not a bot, be nice to each other. There's no reason to be rude. Some people are going through a good bit. I'll tell you, I'm going through a massive headache right now, and I also feel exhausted. So yeah, if somebody out there in the live chat's like me, I feel for you, and I would want to be treated really nicely if I was in the live chat and active right now. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support, Psyops, being the voice of reason. Wait a minute, that's not Psyops. He's not the voice of reason. He's the voice of silly jokes, but still, tonight, Psyops...
Oh, man, Psyops roasted. Psyops roasted live on air, man.
No, Psyops is hilarious as hell. Like, usually he's the voice of silliness and everything. He's always throwing in the good jokes. But
Psyops actually is a voice of reason, but he likes to be funny.
Psyops, and I'll tell you all how Psyops really is, because I've been in a call with Psyops before. Psyops is the silliest guy in the live chat, has sometimes the weirdest jokes, but they're funny still. And then when you get in a call with Psyops, he's like one of the nicest people and most normal people you've ever talked to. It's really interesting. And also Psyops is just a really cool dude all around. So I gotta thank you so much once again for the support, Psyops. Don't take that as a roast, because I was just kidding about what you do and say in the live chat with the funny jokes. But with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again, Psyops, for being around forever and also being one of our channel mods. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for being here tonight, Psyops, and thank you for helping this thing to keep on running.
And also, have you ever had one of these original Crowder Zuckers?
No.
Ricola.
Hang on, I'll just come over there and grab one if that's all right with you.
I thought you had a whole bag over there. What happened to them?
Oh, wait a minute. You're talking about these? Yeah, I've had.
I guess I can't see it.
Yeah, I mean, wait, is it Ricola made with Swiss Alpine herbs, original herb cough drops?
Man, it says Crowder Zucker on it. I thought it was pretty interesting. I just read that, so I figured I'd say it out loud for no particular reason.
I don't see that on mine.
Oh, you don't have the special kind then?
Huh.
But anyways, moving on to our next one, we have a $20 super chat from Santiago Flores, who says, good evening, late after dinner with the family. This is for whatever fund to cover anything, literally. Donating a live chat question, and keep it up, guys.
And thank you so much for the support. And thank you for just helping this thing to keep on running. And also, I've got to say, thank you so much for watching. It means a lot to me that a lot of people watch this channel. It's crazy to think that so long ago, it was an incredibly long time ago at this point, 332 days ago, I started covering the war on the first hour, and I didn't expect this channel to make it far. And a lot of people in my family didn't expect the channel to ever make it at all. They never expected for people to actually watch my channel and enjoy it. And you know, my mom and my dad were like, you know, maybe you ought to not do YouTube. It's just a waste of time. It's not really worthwhile or anything. And I said, no, it'll be worthwhile eventually. I'll make it worthwhile. So then the war started, and the most worthwhile thing I could have ever done as a YouTuber came to be. We've been able to help out hundreds, if not thousands of people through the fundraisers. We've been able to report on a war. We've been able to talk to people overseas, and sometimes give them information that they're looking for. We've been able to help out people in our live chat, the Lee Spring Army. We've created a community. It's unbelievable to think how far we've gotten thanks to viewers like you. And I got to thank you so much once again for the support, because it truly does blow me away whenever I think about it, how far this channel has really come, and how much it's started to mean to me over time. At the beginning of this channel, everyone I talked to, even after it had blown up, said there's an end in sight. In a few months' time, it'll all fizzle out, and it's just a small gleam from a dying star kind of thing. And it's 11 months in. We're about to be going into the 365th day of the war, and we're still here, and all of our viewers are still here, and we're still covering the war. And it's really blown me away that y'all have enjoyed this so much and supported us to keep this thing rolling, and also just supported us all together by telling us y'all enjoy this thing, because that means as much to me as support does. Although I do have to say, support does help us to eat and stay alive. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address the comment fairly well, and long live the Lee Spring Army. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Sharon Tukolsky, who does not leave a comment, but puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much, Sharon, for that. And sadly, no comment to address. But let's see here. I think Sharon did leave a super sticker. Thanks for being you. And it has the pair jumping around looking in the mirror. I gotta say something. The pair might be narcissistic. The way it's looking at itself in the mirror, it's a little suspicious.
It kind of is. I think Matthew, honestly, I'm sitting here thinking, look at me. There's nobody better looking in the world than me. I'm absolutely fantastic looking. The only person that looks better than me is me. I'm impressive. I'm thinking of that. But with that, thank you so much once again for the support, Sharon Tukolsky. I hope that does address the support fairly well, and a pretty funny super sticker. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. You are definitely an old guard. You have been around definitely since day 4.
Yes, indeed. And up next, we have a $15 super chat from Cindy Mitchell, who says, send it to the chat, Matt. And I will. And thank you for the support. And the question from the chat, which is sponsored by Cindy Mitchell, goes to Miss Disa, who says, why do most of the Russians stand on their news shows?
Good question. I don't know. I think they're trying to make some kind of a position of dominance, because sitting up is like a way to make it look like you're more astute or something similar. But I really don't understand the reasoning behind it. I don't know if it's a set thing, a cultural thing, a societal thing. I don't know. But it is really weird that they never sit down on any of these shows. And when they do, it's very, very rare. So with that, I hope that answers the question, Miss Disa. I don't really have a clear answer for that. I don't really know why that's a phenomenon in Russia. But thank you so much once again for the support, Cindy Mitchell. I hope that does answer the sponsored live chat really well. And thank you, Miss Disa, for throwing in a pretty interesting one that I really don't have an answer to. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support and helping this thing to keep on going.
All right. And yes, thank you very much for that. And up next, we have a $50 super chat from Retail Mix USA, who says that video with the soldier in Bakhmut said something could be coming on Sunday.
You know, I read that as Solidar too, Matthew.
That's weird. It's like a brain like twister.
Yeah, once you see Solidar enough, your concept of how soldier is spelled is just all messed up. Now you think that soldier is pronounced Solidar and Solidar is pronounced soldier. It's like the worst thing. But to answer that, Retail Mix USA said, with that video with the soldier in Bakhmut, said something could be coming on Sunday. Maybe our fundraiser. That could be what's coming on Sunday. Or it could be something even greater. I don't know. But with that, I don't really know how to address that, though. But that is interesting that he said that. And I'm going to be waiting till Sunday to see if something is coming. Because if it is, I'm going to be blown away. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support, Retail Mix USA, and helping this thing to keep on rolling. If it wasn't for a viewer like you, it wouldn't be possible. And of course, I do like my mix of retail here in the United States of America. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again for the support.
All right, and up next we have a $10 super chat from Landlubber, who says, I think they meant to say, I bet Germany will come around. Also, the U.S. could send a few Abrams to defend near logistics lines.
And that is a pretty interesting idea. I hate to say this, though. I'm not sure if the Germans will come around because they've waffled so much. They went from yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, that I'm not really sure if there ever will be a clear enough yes for a long enough time for them to do anything. But hopefully they will turn around one day. I've seen that some people are kind of getting tired of Germany getting crapped on. We're really just crapping on the German government, and we kind of try and keep that light because, you know, there's people out there that get really, really harsh with their wordage, and I don't really think that's necessary. The point kind of gets across with how disappointed people are with the German government by just saying we're disappointed. But moving on from that, and getting back to answering the question, hopefully they will turn around, and I guess we could send some Abrams to help defend logistics lines, but tanks are largely frontline vehicles and used directly on the front. So if there were Abrams, they would most likely be involved in the fighting in Solidar and Bakhmut and need a decent amount of maintenance, and so they would have to be sent back to Poland fairly quickly once they arrived. And so with that, I hope that does address the comment fairly well, and I thank you so much once again for the support. And with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again.
And up next, we have a $20 super chat from Psyops, who says, you will never understand the innermost machinations of my mind. Ooh, shiny. If you wouldn't mind contacting your reps and let them know why Ukraine is important to you, I would appreciate it. And also, Texas stink.
I think that first line, Matthew, is supposed to be something from Patrick Star on SpongeBob. The inner machinations of my mind is but an enigma. And then, like, the milk tips over. You remember that?
I don't even vaguely remember that.
I would pull it up, but I know we get copyrighted for it.
Definitely.
Man, I can't believe it. Yeah, that would have been a funny joke. But anyways, if you want, I would agree with you, Synapse. And also, I like the joke because if that was a SpongeBob reference, pretty funny. If you wouldn't mind, contact your representatives, everyone, and let them know why Ukraine is important and how much you would appreciate the continued support. Remember, everyone, being a rude, dog-headed asshole, to put it simply, is not the way to be in life. And I know that's very strong wordage, but I don't understand how people think that that's a way to communicate with people. Some people hop into our live chat and talk to us like that, and it doesn't work with us, and it doesn't work with anyone. That's no way to talk to anyone. So do not talk to your elected representatives like that either, because they are also people. Make sure to talk to them in a reasonable way. If you write a letter to them like, hello, I'm from your district. I voted for you, and I would love for you to continue to support the Ukraine. So if you could, within the next congressional hearings and so on, please make sure to support any kind of measures or votes that will help to keep the Ukrainians fighting and winning this war with American support. Make sure to always word stuff like that. If you have a disagreement with someone, make sure to be very polite about it, because there's no point in not being polite, because all you're going to do is create a fight, and you're not going to get anything out of it. It's just pointless. And I think that that's something that people ought to understand. You know, I don't get it. I feel like I'm about to go on a lecture about, like, social manners and things, but being rude to people won't get you anything done. It's like when someone goes out of their way to be extremely polite and try and clear up a thing in between two people that was apparently a misunderstanding, and then you try and contact them and they just blow you off about 4 or 5 times over the course of several weeks. That isn't really a good way to do things. That's just being rude, especially when someone's trying to go out I say what?
That's the good old taking kindness for weakness routine.
Yeah, because and we're not talking about anything in particular by no means. But
oh no,
not at all. It's not anything that's actually happened, but you would think, considering that someone's going out of their way to try and be polite and try and I guess you could say write a misperceived communication or some kind of occurrence, you would think that you would try and work with that. That would be the most polite thing to do, and there's many other situations that work, but we're just bringing that one up for no particular reason. So with that, we are on to the next one. But thank you so much once again for the support, Symes, and I hope we addressed that comment fairly well. Also, Texas does not stink. I have a friend that thinks that now, who actually went there for Space Force training, but I don't think it's that bad. I'm sure Texas is fine. Maybe one day I'll go out there and see it, and I'll also go up to Oklahoma and be proud to be an Okie from Muskogee. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and also Syves did ask later on if we could take a live chat question for that super chat. So the live chat question goes to Hein family, who says, people have overlooked the clean-shaven orders given by the Russians, which makes CBRN respirators more effective. Is chemical and biological warfare likely?
Good question. I think we answered that one last night, and I think that's more of an attempt by the Russians to make it look like the Ukrainians might be using biological warfare on them to freak out the public, considering that order is being issued. And that is something that we would also do going into the Gulf War, is that we told everyone in the U.S. military to shave down their mustache profiles to be small enough or completely non-existent, so that way a proper seal could be achieved. And our general purpose in doing that was because we thought the Iraqis may use chemical weapons. The Russians may also be doing that in a propaganda attempt to make it look like the Ukrainians are so evil that they're expecting them to use those anytime soon. And so with that, I hope that answers that question fairly well. I don't think the Russians will be using chemical weapons because we're getting involved in the war then, and they don't want that because they know that is an instant losing fight. So with that, I hope that does address the question fairly well, and we are on to the next one. And thank you once again, Cyrus, for sponsoring that live chat.
And up next, we have a $20 super chat from Willie. Willness, not Willie. Willness says, been here since your first live stream. You were only the one who did live stream about war at moment. That was actually really scary times. Greeting from Latvia City, Cesis. Sent you a larger letter to DC.
And thank you so much for the support, Willness. And also, since your first live stream, that's crazy. And also, I think that was the weirdest thing ever, because if I'm correct, I don't know if I'm exactly correct on this. I think I was the first person on YouTube to start a stream on the war. I may be wrong on that. I don't have enough information to back that up, and I don't have timestamps to check when I went live and when everyone else went live, but I think I was here reporting within the first hour of the war, and no one else on YouTube had gotten to it yet. Everyone got to it, I think, the next day, but I was the one that was there at that moment. So, kind of crazy to think that that's probably how a decent amount of viewers found me, is that the YouTube algorithm just kind of pushed me because I was the first one to do it, and they were like, hey, look, everyone wants a whole bunch of news on Ukraine, and, so we're going to give it to them. What's interesting is that channels like Starsky actually was covering the war in Ukraine, of course, from the start, but he was doing it in Ukrainian, and then he switched over to English, I think, a couple of weeks or a month in. So a lot of English-speaking viewers in the international world at large didn't really know his channel until he started doing his videos in English, and then they really took off because he was really good at them. And then Denis Davidov came around, I think, 4 months into the war. So, it's really crazy to think that out of everyone, I've been around doing this for maybe the longest. I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't want to sit here and start saying that and making that a fact when it may not be. But from what I know, I think I was. So with that, and I do have to agree with you, Willness, that it was a very scary time. It was a scary time for me because I have friends over there, and it was a scary time for a lot of Ukrainians because there was no idea what was really about to happen. Also, Brian Fisher said, you weren't first. Aw. BC Skyman said, yes, you were one of the first. So it looks like some people are saying yes and no. So it doesn't really appear that there's a clear answer. I think being in the first hour of the war, though, is almost as close to being first as possible. But with that, Thank you so much once again for the support, Wellness. I hope that does address the comment fairly well, and we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support.
And real quick, let's go over this poll. The question is, are we dissing on Germany too harshly about the tank issue? 28% said yes, and 72% said no.
Oh, gosh.
So, interesting. So, I've got to say, I don't think we're being too harsh personally, but obviously, you know, that's us judging ourselves. And I would assume the enforcer thinks the same thing, but he can tell us in a second. But for the folks that are saying yes, I'd be curious to know what exactly is too harsh.
Yes. I would have to say, I don't think we're being too harsh. We're trying to be as calm as possible on that matter, and not really get overly emotional. Because some people get really, really emotional about it. And, you know, I still have to say this. At the end of the day, I'm just a YouTube channel. And while I found out that a decent amount of people watch this stream, that are in the Ukrainian military and in foreign governments, apparently there's someone from the Austrian parliament that watches this stream. We don't have that much pull, so there's no point in me going and absolutely rapping on the Germans, and because it's not going to get anything done. I'm just going to be creating a massive scene and a storm and a hellfire, and it's going to achieve really nothing much. So it's better to just say they should send the tanks, or they ought to be sending the tanks, and not go into it too much. So I don't feel like we're doing too harshly on the Germans, and we're really just talking about the German government directly, like Schultz, which the Russians love to say, Schultz, mein kleiner, you know, all that stuff in German afterwards, because, you know, they want to make him out to be like Hitler or something. But anyways, I hope that does address the poll fairly well, and we're on to the next one.
All right, and up next, we have a $20 super chat from Panama Floyd, once again. He says, Enforcer, I just want to make sure you eventually call it the link of the Unimog Racing. Also, take a question from the chat. Repeating the link later down. Super Chat seems to be very upset that I tried to send the link. So, Panama, thank you very much for the support. Sadly, the Nightbot destroys any link that gets put into the live chat. But if you want, send it to me on a Discord DM. I'd like to see it because I didn't know Unimogs actually raced. I've never heard of that. So I'd love to see it. Also, take a question from the chat. But what say you, Enforcer?
I say racing Unimog sounds pretty cool. And look, there they are.
Oh?
Oh? Nani? There they are. There's one of them.
Oh?
Oh?
Did these things race in the Dakar?
What is that? I don't even
that,
know what that
like
is.
desert race? It's like a really extreme, like endurance desert race.
I would have no idea, man. Like, I wouldn't know at all. It looks like this one might be.
Yeah, it could be.
This is
I
totally
didn't know
out
there
of my,
were rally trucks. That's crazy.
This is totally out of my league. Oh, look at that one. Red Bull.
Oh, that's definitely not a Unimog, but it's pretty cool though.
No, not the Unimog, but look at that one. Pretty cool. I like it.
Oh, that's different.
Pretty different. Pretty different, I'd say. This one's also pretty cool.
I like.
Pretty neat vehicle, I must say. But with that, I thank you so much for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we are going to take the live chat. But thank you so much for the support, Panama Floyd.
All right, and the live chat question sponsored by Panama Floyd goes to, let's see, Paula McDonald, who says, what's the status of the Challenger 2s from the UK? Did I get the name correct?
Yes, you did. The Challenger 2 is the tank from the United Kingdom, and it is...
Ding, ding, ding.
The coins start flowing out of the machine. Anyways, they are on the way. There's 14 of them, but we don't know if they've made them into Ukraine yet, because we haven't seen any video footage of them on train heading towards the Ukrainian border. So, unfortunately, I can't give you a yes and no. So with that, I hope that answers the live chat fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Uber Khan, who puts in a $10 donation with no comment, sadly. But Uber Khan, thank you very much for that support. It's appreciated very much, to a great extent. I'm trying to find new wordage here, so I'm not repeating myself over and over. But seriously, though, thank you for the support. And Enforcer, what say you?
And I thank you so much for the support as well, because without it, it wouldn't be possible to keep this thing running. And so while you didn't leave a comment, we of course appreciate any support we get. And so with that, I hope we addressed that fairly well. Thank you for being a Elite Spring Army soldier. And with that, we are on to the next one.
The next one goes to Julie Noor, who says, who puts in a $10 donation and says that they said in the news in Norway that Wagner Medvedev had with him several memory pens, don't know the correct name in English, with videos and pictures of war crimes committed in Ukraine.
Flash drives, I think that's what it's called here in America. And very interesting to hear. I thank you also for the support. And if he has some that document it, that would be fairly interesting to see. That means that there is now 2 soldiers, one from the Russian army and one from Wagner, that are going to be showing the war crimes that have been committed in different areas and different instances. So thank you so much for the support and sharing that with us. And if that's true, we will be looking to find those videos, not showing them on stream, but looking at them off stream to see what they entail. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again for the support.
I like that, though. Memory pens.
That does
I don't
sound
think they actually
cool.
like mean like a memory pen, like they smuggled it out like in a flash drive disguised as a pen.
I wonder. That would be really cool if there was such a thing as a memory pin.
Yeah, it would be neat.
Yeah,
But anyways, we're on to the next one. And the next one goes to Putin will hang in the middle of the Kremlin, who puts in a $10 donation and says, late again, question from chat, thanks, I've got nothing.
Thank you so much for the support. Putin will hang in the middle of the Kremlin. Of course, the support is greatly appreciated, and it's perfectly fine that you're late. For some reason, you always come in here and say that you're late. It's not like we're going to count you tardy or anything and make this count against your grade. You can show up or not. I'm glad that you do show up, though, and it's all right that you're late. But never feel guilty that you didn't show up. If you show up, I'm more than happy. I'm ecstatic to know that everyone's showing up. And so with that, thank you so much for the support. When I said, Matthew, it doesn't matter to me if you show up or don't, I was like, dang, that actually sounded kind of rude. That didn't come out the way I was wanting it to. What I meant by that, though, to clarify that, because that I was thinking that would come out differently than it sounded when I said it. If you watch it after it goes live, that's fine. If you watch it while it's live, that's fine too. And if you can't show up, that's okay. But we'll always be wondering where you are. And also, to say this again, just to make sure it's very clear, I'm glad that you did show up, and it's perfectly fine. It doesn't matter if you're late or not. I'm just glad that you're here tonight. And so with that, let's get a live chat. And thank you once again for the support. Putin will hang in the middle of the Kremlin.
And the live chat question goes to LZXray67, who says, why do the Russians think Ukraine is going to attack them? It doesn't make sense.
I don't think they've said that, from what I know. I never heard the Russians saying that there's going to be a Ukrainian offensive. They were always talking about a Russian offensive into Ukraine to finally beat them in this war. So, with that, I hope that does address the question fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again, Putin will hang in the middle of the Kremlin, for sponsoring that live chat.
Yes, indeed. And up next, we have a $10 super chat from Flying Potato, who says, whatever happened to that Moscow Mike guy from earlier last year?
Ooh. Well, he was a next door neighbor. He's still down there, and we don't really talk to him much. That's it. So with that, thank you so much for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
All right. And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Philip Fixes, who says, Matt doesn't like me since I made him say War Eagle, but I still love you guys. That's not true, Philip. He says, how the surprise is you building studio in basement. Slava LSA. Oh, no, man. But thank you for the support.
Oh, no, right? That's not true. We're not building a...
That's false accusations, bruv.
That's false accusations. Where's your proof? Where's your proof? I think I know where it is, Matthew. We kind of... anyways, I thank you so much for the support, Philip. We don't hate you because you made us say War Eagle. Not at all, brother. Not at all. But I do thank you so much for the support as I slammed the P.O. box key against the desk trying to move it out of the way. And also, I hope that you'll write about that, because that would be pretty cool if we were. And so with that, I hope that does address the comment fairly well. Thank you once again for the support, Philippe. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Dark Warrior 137, who says, currently fishing by the fleet of concrete ships from World War II over here in Chesapeake Bay. They were used as supply and medical ships when low on steel.
Very interesting. You said concrete ships?
The concrete ones.
The concrete ones. Concrete ships, Chesapeake Bay. Concrete ships, Chesapeake.
I don't think concrete's buoyant, though.
That's concrete, baby. Let's see these things.
Oh, look at that concrete ship.
Well, holy moly, Matthew. They're concrete ships. They're real ships that are concrete. Would you believe it? I wouldn't. Let's take a picture. Let's look at the pictures. These things are looking a little musty. Holy moly. Get out of there,
Wait, they're
kid.
actually, like, these ships are actually concrete?
I think they filled them with concrete.
I see some people saying that concrete is buoyant. It floats. Now, I've never seen that before. I'd have to see that on video to believe it.
Holy moly, Matthew. They are made of concrete.
Are you sure they aren't, like, sitting on the floor, though?
I doubt it. But that looks like
Maybe that's why they're all
concrete.
wrecked.
But that looks like concrete to me. See how, like, it's, like, rocky looking?
Could be styrofoam.
Get the hell out of here. Oh, my God. I mean, it looks a lot like concrete to me. Oh, this pelican's
Look at that duck.
Oh, God. That's a
I know.
He's going to get flamed. He's going to get flamed. Watch out, Matty. Keep your head low. Here comes the artillery barrage. Yeah, they're just made of concrete. So bizarre. He's fishing near them. He's super chatted us while he's on a small kayak fishing at night. Best of luck to you, man. Like, if you're doing that, you got some balls, because I would not do that.
I bet the sharks like to come around these boats right here probably at night.
I bet the sharks. There's just
that was actually totally unintentional too. I don't know why I did a Boston accent on that.
There's just some car sharks just swimming through the water in their natural habitat.
A car shark?
No, sharks. A car shark.
Oh.
And I wonder if that's what the Australians are always talking about. Look out for the sharks. And then when you, like, fall in the water, like, these car sharks come up to you and they start biting you. Like, they start pulling off chunks of flesh.
Yeah, that's true.
You
know what's even worse than that?
What?
Loan sharks. Have you ever seen those?
Man, I have, man. Those sharks go swimming around the sea wearing those glasses. They always have that little file with them. They're always trying to
wearing suits.
Yeah, they're always scary. They're always really scary. I don't like them, man. They scare me. Also, look.
Yeah, that's what really happens whenever there's like a shark-like incident. It's a loan shark trying to collect on his debt, and it's never pretty.
It's like that Squid Game thing, where they slap him on the nose. The blood is tasty. But anyways, with that, I thank you so much once again for the support. That's really cool to know that those things were there. I didn't even know. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running.
Yes, indeed. And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Willness. Once again, who says, LSA forever. Consider starting our own intelligence agency, calling it the Leaf Spring Army Intelligence, or LSA-I for short.
And thank you so much for the support. And thank you for the suggestion. Right now, though, we're just trying to work on the Army side of things here. Grow up the Army, make sure that it's all nice and good. Maybe one day we'll have a flag. Maybe one day little community meetings around the country. A community meeting sounds really lame, doesn't it? We'll have to call it something else. But we can't think about an intelligence agency. That is a pretty interesting idea. And so with that, I thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment apparently well. Thank you so much once again for helping this channel to keep on running and giving us a pretty neat suggestion. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again.
And also, Anthony Riley said, bull sharks will charge you. Something else bull sharks do a lot is pull con games because they're always bull sharking on everybody. It's really insane.
That was a good one. Man,
But anyways,
you know something,
yes.
man? I went to go get a shark, and I was completely disappointed because it was a lemon shark.
Oh, damn.
Nah, man, and one time...
Damn, son, where'd you find that one?
Damn, son, where'd you find this? I can't do it as good as Matthew. I never will, but... You know what, something else, Matthew? I went into a hospital one day, and I was trying to check out hang on, let me rework that joke. I went to the hospital one day to go check on a sickly mother, and I went in there, and you wouldn't believe it, Matthew. There was this sharky looking nurse over, and I said, "Oh my God, it's a nurse shark." I don't know if that works. Anyways, we're on to
Where's
the next
punchline, though? Like, I was trying to understand it. Like, where's the punchline?
The Monty Python punchline of police are about to arrest me because there was no punchline. But with that, we're on to the next one.
All right. So, on to the next one. We have a $5 super chat from Sausage, Gravy, and Biscuit, who says, let's send all U.S. armor, M1A2s in Germany to Ukraine, and let the Germans defend themselves. Slava Ukraine.
And thank you so much for the support. I don't think we want to throw allies to the wolves, but so with that, I thank you so much for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again for the support.
All right. And also, people really got really hurt about that last joke, like not having a punchline. People are really hurt over that.
How your grandpa said that was horrible. Oh, man. Yeah, way you made me feel good, huh? With my massive throbbing headache and I'm trying to come up with jokes to entertain you people. Yeah. For the money you're paying to be here, this ought to be a riot. I'm about to pull a Don Rickles. I'm going to sit here and start going,
yeah.
What are you doing over here? Looking all stupid. But anyways, we're on to the next. Wait a minute, hang on. I gotta start cussing out people on stream. That probably will turn this whole thing around. But with that, we're on to the next one.
But anyways... up next, we have a $5 super chat from Craig Platel, who says, your cost on HIMARS is off. It's $3.5 million. Think about it. Can it really cost 6 to 8 times more than an Abrams?
I wouldn't doubt it if it did. There's a lot of AA systems that do. And considering that the Germans, or whoever it was, bought 50 of them for $1 billion to $2 billion, and it's somewhere in between that range, that was the cost per unit right there for that contract. So... in a way, yeah, it did cost that much specifically for the Germans. I don't know how much it cost for the Americans to get that contract, though, and produce theirs. So with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And I thank you so much once again for the support. But you may be right. You may be true. The American cost per unit may have been much lower. And so with that, we're moving on to the next one. But JB got it right, Matthew. I get no respect around here. I get no respect. I wake up in the morning and there's a heaviness over me. A heaviness. And sometimes I wake up and I talk to it and I go, hi, heaviness. And it goes, oh, you're going to get it real good today, bruh.
And also, Miss Disa said, you guys get goofy as the night progresses.
We do.
I'm not going to deny that. We really do, because sometimes delirium starts setting in. But I try my hardest, like, in the beginning part of the stream to, like, keep the comments and jokes to a minimum and just let the enforcer carry the news. And then we get goofy during the question segment near the end. So, you know. It is what it is.
I gotta be honest with you, Miss Disa. The reason why I get goofier as the stream goes on is because I'm getting exhausted. And a lot of people always say it's caffeine, but the caffeine for me only works for about the first hour of the stream. Then at that point, I'm working off of nothing. So as the stream starts going on later and later into the night, I'm getting more and more tired. And the best way I found to combat the the inevitable battle of exhaustion I'm always facing is to try and joke, because getting some good laughs always keeps me sharp and keeps me going. And also trying to think of how to come up with some kind of a cheesy joke also helps me to keep on being attentive, so that way I can make sure to keep on getting through super chats, and also making sure to engage with y'all, because I wouldn't want to sit here and just turn into a dead rock and just sit around and do nothing, which is, some people do that, but that's not me. So with that, I thank you so much once again for bringing that up, because that's the reason why I do it. But with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next we have a $10 super chat from Wellness once again. I think Wilderness is trying to get even with me for calling him Willie earlier, but he says, why did the enforcer cross the road? To report on the war in Ukraine, of course. And he brought his brother Matt along for the ride, who is in charge of the super chats and animations. Wellness, you're about to get permanently called Willie in a minute if you don't watch out.
Why did he roast you like that?
Yeah, he probably got upset about being called Willie.
I'm telling you, you need to do it, Matthew. Now you need to do the whole "I get no respect around here" thing.
Yeah, I get no respect around here. Eh?
I'm telling you, I get no respect around here. I went to my apartment the other day to pay rent, and they said, "Hey, what the hell are you doing in here?" But with that was a terrible one. That joke didn't even make any sense. With that, we are on to the next one. But thank you so much once again for the support, Wilderness, and also, why'd you have to go with Matthew? It was kind of funny, but I don't know. It's still, I don't know why. Anyways, with that,
come on, Willie.
Yeah, we're on to the next one, but thank you once again for the support.
And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Philip Fixes, who says, Enforcer does news better. I'm not sure if this is a roast or what, Philip Fixes, but I'm going to read it off anyway. He says, Enforcer does news better from his mom's basement than ask the major news outlets combined.
That's actually not a roast. That's a compliment.
Is the surprise you building a sound booth for you too, Slava LSA?
Thank you for the support. And I think that's actually supposed to be a compliment, meaning that with very little in terms of massive budget or ability, we're doing way better than any mainstream news outlet ever. So that's actually pretty good to know. I was about to say, Matthew, like if he sat there, it was about to roast me. I was about to say, I get no respect around here. I tell you what, my wife and I, we don't think alike. She donates money to the homeless. I donate money to the topless. Hey, you know what I mean? I get no respect around here. One night I came home. I figured, let my wife come on. No, play it cool. I'll let her make her first move. She went to Florida. I tell you, I get no respect around here. Nobody likes me. Nobody loves me. I asked my old man if I could go ice skating on the lake. He told me, wait till it gets warmer. I'm telling you, I get no respect around here. That's an idiot.
Willie and Philip came in low, boy. They came in with the roast.
But Philip said it was a great compliment. I am taking it as that. So I thank you so much once again for the support. And yeah, we can't really say anything about what's going on down here, but the project, I forgot what we named the project at the end. Project Blackjack? No, it was Project Rabbit Hole. Yeah, Project Rabbit Hole is coming along nicely. So with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again, Philip, because I get no respect around here. You know what I mean? And I gotta thank you. Oh, thank you so much once again for the support. It helps us out a lot. Oh, gee. And if y'all are wondering, I am doing like that whole tie adjusting thing, and I'm wearing a t-shirt, but I'm still doing the tie adjusting thing where he like grabs the tie and he's like always moving it around and stuff. But with that, we're on to the next one. And thank you once again.
All right, and up next, we have a $5 super chat from Raj Kapoor, who says, any update on the GLSDB?
Yes, we did hear that they're finally being sent, but we haven't seen them used because it's been too early around here. Way too early, way too early. But I do thank you so much for the support, and I hope that does answer the question fairly well. Now, if you ask that question in maybe a month's time, I think we will have some verifiable answers and hardcore proof to show you. So with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again for the support, and I hope that does address the comment fairly well. Matthew, what the hell? People are starting to roast me a lot now. Like, hell, even Angry Penguin said, Enforcer's an old soul. I tell you, I get no respect around here. When I was born...
That's a good thing these days.
When I was born, the doctor came out to the waiting room and said to my father, I'm very sorry. We did everything we could, but he pulled through. Oh, man, I get no respect around here. Anyways, with that, we're on to the next one. I'm telling you what.
And up next, we have a $10 super chat from Richard Philpott, who says, this conflict is being regulated. There must be a high morality before Russian population takes its head out of its buttski. After general mobilization, the arms will flow to Ukraine.
And I thank you so much for the support, Richard Philpott. And I would say the conflict is being... I don't know what regulated means in that instance, unfortunately, so I don't know how to answer that part. But also Angry Penguin, don't worry, I took it. I was just kidding around. I just had to find a reason to come up with another joke. Hopefully it's a good one. But anyways, getting back to this, because I saw Angry Penguin took that seriously. I know, I didn't take that badly, man. I was just kidding around. But I was just kidding around, man. You know what I mean. But let's see. There must be a high mortality before the Russian population takes its head after general mobilization. I think all of that will be true. I don't know about the regulated part. I don't know how to address that. But the rest of that is true. I think that the Russian population will eventually flip around after the general mobilization because they're living in a lie right now, and that's the only reason why they're being a little, I guess you could say, in denial. And also, the West will really support arms to Ukraine if they think that things will start going south because of the mass mobilization. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you so much once again for the support, and I hope we addressed that fairly well, Richard Philpott.
Indeed. And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Who Dat Dragon, who said, not Solidar, but for me, every time you say Donetsk, my brain hears donuts. Also, read a live chat question, please.
I'm telling you, I get no respect around here. My father was stupid. He worked in a bank and they called him stealing pins. I'm telling you, I've just never had it easy in life. Never had it easy.
But yeah, sometimes I think donuts too. I don't know why. I think it's just kind of a thing. Do you think donuts whenever you hear that, Matthew?
Not really.
I
hear Donetsk.
Oh, when I said that, oh, Matthew, I wasn't supposed to voice crack, but then I went, oh. But anyways, I thank you so much for the support. I hope that does address that fairly well. Wait, what was that?
You know, the meme?
Oh.
That annoying meme that doesn't make any sense at
it's
all.
so annoying. Wait, hang on. We got to show this to y'all because I don't know if y'all have seen this one. I'll at least play the... Well, we'll actually show y'all the clip too because I'm not really getting it. But it got stuck in my head after I saw it today. So I'll just show it to y'all so it can get stuck in y'all's head. Alright, so... The dog. Gotta find the one with the pretzel. Here we go. Here, yeah.
Man, I can't see it. Oh, there it is. Oh my gosh.
It's so annoying. I don't get it. I don't get it at all. And
I don't get it at all. It's just insanity.
And Matthew brought it up, so I had to do it. But yeah, I'm not getting it. I'm telling you, I don't have it easy around here. My family was so stupid that in the Civil War, my great-grandfather, he fought for the West. I'm telling you what, I don't get it easy around here. I get no respect around here. But anyways, moving on from the whole Dangerfield thing, I'm not really getting why I'm still doing that anymore. I don't get what that is. I don't understand it. And also, why do we go into that, Mandy? Like, what brought that on?
I don't know, you said something, but I feel like you'd watch something like that from the Nut House or something.
Yeah, I feel like that's something you watch in an asylum or something like that. And now it's stuck in my head. Now I'm thinking of that "let me do it for you" thing all day long. But with that, thank you so much once again for support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And we are on to the next of the Observer said, I like that. He said a straight check. I'm just kidding, the Observer. But, oh, man. Anyways... with that, we are on. Also, welcome back, Magic Sky Girl. I just saw you in the live chat.
Hey, welcome back.
And so with that, we're on to the next one.
And also, Paul B made a very intriguing offer. He said, kind of off topic, but would you guys be interested in an alternative music, same tune, different arrangement, and no copyright? Yes, sir, we would.
I would say, yeah, we would. Yeah, I would be all for it. You just send the best you got, and we'll take a look at it, eh? And so with that, thank you so much once again for the offer. And with that, we're on to the next one, yeah?
All right, and up next, we have a $3 super chat from Wheelie this time, not the Willie, Wheelie. We have a $2 super chat from Dupper Bob as well. So thank you very much to both of you for the support, and we appreciate it very much. And Enforcer, what say you about those final two super chats right here?
You know what I gotta say about them? I gotta thank you so much once again for the support. Without y'all, it wouldn't be possible for me to keep this thing running. And of course, y'all are the only people who give me any kind of respect around here. My mother never breastfed me. She told me that she only liked me as a friend. I get no respect around here.
If you're wondering where I'm getting these from, I pull up Rodney Dangerfield jokes and I'm reading them off. But
oh my goodness, that's cheating.
Yeah, it's cheap. Yeah, it's cheating too, but I had to because I only knew like 2 good jokes that I came up with that could be like Rodney Dangerfield-esque. And beyond that, I have no time to do that. Oh, man. Oh, man. Anyways, with that, I thank you so much once again for the support. I'm trying to figure out where I'm even at right now. Where am I? But thank you to both of y'all once again for the support, because if it wasn't for y'all and Dupper Bob's continued regular support, this channel wouldn't be possible. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again. Also, I saw Paula McDonald say, shh. But anyways, we're now on to the live chats.
I don't know what slide I was just talking about right now, but anyways, up next we have the Morse code decoders. Actually, we have Cliff Simonson, CFA, WFTU, JP's RCs, Rumpelstiltskin, and Mark Hodges, a whole crew tonight. Who says Morse code says it's only about 2 days away. What are you waiting for? Slava LSA, Slava Ukraine, and
Igor. And wait 2 days to find out what I'm talking about. We'll see y'all after the break. But yeah, I can't say what we're going to be waiting on in 2 days. Well, actually, I will. The new Discord is going live in 2 days. On Sunday night, we're going to make the official announcement that our brand new Discord server is open, and we'll be closing down the old one, or at least scaling it down significantly. So eventually, we're going to have to take everyone that's on the current Discord, the briefing room, and we're going to be taking you all into a brand new one with all kinds of new features, a whole new setup. It's going to be a whole lot better, a whole lot more engaging, and I can't wait for y'all to get over there. So that's what y'all are going to be waiting 2 days for. And it will be announced and opened on Sunday night. And so with that, we're now going to be moving on from that Morse code deciphering. And thank you all so much for once again for doing that. And we are now going to be moving on into the first live chat question. I think we actually have some super chats again.
Yeah, we do.
So
we have some super chats.
So we're going to get to those.
All right. So next up, we have a $10 super chat from Wellness once again. And I'm beginning to get the sense that Wellness actually does not like me because he wrote this one kind of jaded a little bit. He said, the Enforcer has a superpower. He can report on war and still keep a sense of humor. He's like a one-man army fighting for the truth and making us laugh at the same time. Love you and huge respect. Oh, man, Willie, you didn't have to do that.
Oh, man. Well, I thank you so much for the kind words. Largely... most of the news is put together by me, but I have to give a lot of credit to Matthew for the behind-the-scenes operations of the channel while it's live. If Matthew wasn't here managing the live chat, getting rid of the bots, and getting some live chats and super chat and all the super chats, this would be a lot weirder and a lot less smooth than it is. Matthew has a lot of a major role in keeping this thing running while it's live on air. My major part is actually making sure that there's something for y'all to watch, something for y'all to laugh at, and also stuff to cover before we get on air, which it takes a decent amount of time, but Matthew still does a massive amount of work in a very short amount of time while this stream is live. Although 3.5 hours of being live on air is not really short when you're live on air. So with that, thank you so much for the support, Wellness. And Matthew, I think on your behalf, I'm going to have to read off another joke because, I'm telling you, man, that you're getting no respect from Wellness around here. I'm telling you what, man. I'm telling you what. You're getting no respect around here. My uncle's dying wish was to have me sitting on his lap. He was in the electric chair. One time I went to a hotel. I asked a bellhop to handle my bag. He felt up my wife. This morning when I put on the underwear, I could hear the Fruit of the Loom guys laughing at me. I'm a bad lover. Once I caught a peeping Tom booing me. My wife only... Well, I can't read that one. It's a tough to stay married. That one, Matthew had the word SEX in it. I was like, whoa. It's tough to stay married. My wife kisses the dogs on the lips, yet she won't drink from my glass. I'm telling you, I get no respect around here. Well, I'm telling you, it's not easy for me. But anyways, bring on the next guy. But with that, we're on to the next thing. Wilderness, you gotta lay off, man. You're roasting them. It's not right. But with that, we're on to the next one.
I'm like getting the urge to roast Willie. Like, I want to roast Willie. But anyways, up next, actually, Psyop sent me something. I'm going to send it over to you. Apparently, it's another variation of that meme we were looking at, of the insanity meme of the dog.
Let me see this. Oh, no. Let's see here. Oh, I have to watch this on YouTube. Let me flip over to YouTube on my phone and vet it real quick.
I just heard in the background.
Hey, hang on, I'll show this one on stream. It's pretty funny.
I can't see it.
Well, oh yeah, I forgot. I gotta actually take it and put it on, like... Okay, so let me... Yep. Oh, now it showed up on the second screen. Dang! Hang on. Let me scoot it over here. And then now let me play
Oh, there it is.
That one didn't have the long snoot. I couldn't do it. Well, thank you so much for that, Psyops. That was a weird one. I still don't get the joke. And yes, that is Miss Piggy singing. From what I was told, that's actually some kind of a song from the Muppets or something. But with that, thank you so much once again for sharing that with us, Psyops. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again for the support. Oh, and not support, but the meme.
I gotta say, Suzanne B, it's a little creepy. Like, after you watch it a few times, you're like, well, I don't really like get it. Something's off about it a little bit. But anyways, Up next, we have a $5 super chat from Psyops. And he was actually asking me to check out the meme. So, Psyops, we already checked it out, but thank you very much for that support. And up next, we have a $2 super chat from Dark Warrior 137, who says, still fishing here at 1 a.m. and fish wait for no man.
Dang, he is actually on his phone watching the stream fishing. In the middle of the night.
That's crazy.
That's crazy, man. You've got dedication to the stream, and I got to thank you for that. And also, that's insane, man. I can't believe that. So have fun out there fishing. Make sure to stay safe. Don't fall off and get killed by the sharks or swimming around. You know, they get loose from the cars, and then they just go wild. I'm telling you. I don't know why I almost whipped into Rodney Dangerfield right now. What the hell am I saying? I almost whipped into Rodney Dangerfield. I feel like I'm having a stroke right now. Like, I can't speak English. Well, anyways, I thank you so much once again for the support, and we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a $3 super chat from Mr. Clancy, who says, the Archer looks like a Volvo dump truck, by the way.
I'm telling you what, the Archer gets no respect around here. This thing looks like a lean, mean killer machine, and someone called it a dump truck. I'm telling you, it gets no respect around here.
I don't know how you've seen that out of this thing. That does not look like a dump truck to me, personally.
It actually does look like a Volvo dump truck.
Man, girl.
With an extended chassis on the back.
Man, girl, are you an Archer SPG? Because you got a whole dump truck.
Oh.
Man. Anyways, I thank you so much for the support and sharing that with us. I don't see it, but Matthew sees it. And so with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again.
All right. So up next, we have a question from the live chat again, because we're done with our super chats. We're going to the question from Marion Demert, who says, did you guys see the video today of the Russian alcoholic saying Russia will soon be the center of Europe?
No. And anyways, he's an alcoholic. Who cares about what he has to say? So someone's probably like, hey, I'm drinking here. But anyways, on behalf of the management, I would like to apologize to anyone drinking while watching the stream. We are not saying that alcoholics are worthless people. I'm just saying that a Russian alcoholic is not really anyone we put a lot of credibility into. And so with that, once again, management, we are on to the next.
And up next, we have a question from Anthony Riley, who says, Enforcer, do you think Germany will have trouble selling military equipment in the future due to the quote-unquote conditions in the fine print?
Could you reread that one again so I can understand it?
Do you think the Germany will have trouble selling military equipment in the future due to the conditions in the fine print?
No, I don't think so.
The Germans are one of the largest arms exporters in the world behind the United States. So I would highly doubt that. They probably will have a lot of customers lined up from here until the end of time. And so with that, I hope that does address that fairly well. And we are on to the next one. Also, good night, Rob, and thank you for saying the Dangerfield is good, because some people have been saying it needs work. Some people have been saying it doesn't need work. Some people have been saying that it's pretty good. But all I get,
and also have people begging me to stop you from doing it.
Yeah, I know. There's always people in every direction, you know. But
also, C-Face said that it is a Volvo chassis on that weapon.
Oh, that's cool. Interesting. But with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a question from, excuse me. We have a question from Alex for Alex, who says, question, sir. How do you think the warm winter in Europe is really going to affect the overall support and strategy in the war?
Winter has been affecting strategy a pretty decent deal from what we can tell from the Ukrainian end. They went entirely defensive. They've never committed an offensive at any point during the winter, which is actually a bit of a surprise because leading into the winter, it was thought that they would be conducting a decent amount of offensives. However, it appears that the Russians tried to commit an offensive instead, and they've now paid dearly for it. So I think that the continuation of winter will see the Ukrainians finally pull off something towards the latter end of February. And we've been thinking that for a while now, and I think that is definitely pretty much screwed in at this point as a definitive certainty. And so with that, I hope that answers the question fairly well, and we are on to the next one. And hey, thank you so much once again for the support, you know what I mean?
All right. And up next, and also that was a live chat question, by the way. But anyways, going on to our next one, we have a question from R. Harara, who says, are there any hopes of Ukraine launching an offensive striker anywhere on the front line?
Can you reread that one again? For some reason, none of them are getting through to my head anymore.
Are there any hopes of Ukraine launching an offensive striker anywhere on the front line?
Yes, there are hopes, but I think that we're going to be waiting a little bit longer for that. I think we're going to be waiting until late February for that, and if we don't see that then, I'm not really sure what would be going on, but we'd have to revisit that and see what's going on with the Ukrainian armed forces at that point if an offensive has not occurred yet. And so with that, I hope that answers the question fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
And the next one we have is from Paul Mace, who says, are the foreign volunteers without combat experience needed in Ukraine? I think he's asking for himself, by the way.
It depends. Without combat experience, that's most likely going to put you in a logistics role, which is very important. So yes, in a way, I would say so. Combat experience is not always required. It is probably required to be in a frontline fighting unit, but there's always other things that you can do to help out that are not frontline fighting. And so with that, we are on to the next one, and I hope that answers the question fairly well.
And up next, we have a question from Sittin and Thinkin, who says, if the Abrams tank is too heavy, what did we expect to use for a tank in an Eastern Europe conflict with the Soviet Union?
That's a great question. I don't really know, buddy. Because when you think about it, that makes absolutely no sense. And if it can't drive over a bridge, just drive it somewhere where there is no bridge. You know what I mean? Seems like a simple fix to me. But with that, I hope that does answer the question really well. You got a great point. You know, once we start pushing into East Germany in the 80s, we were just going, shit, and then we just looked ahead of us, and none of the bridges in any part of Eastern Europe would have been rated for the weight. But with that, we are on to the next one, and you make a very good point.
All right, and up next, we have a question from OZ Jeff Gray, who says, when Russia, Orkistan, is defeated, who will we trust to sign treaty agreement? Who will the West trust to sign, given that every treaty agreement by Putler has been broken?
There's really no way to trust a treaty agreement. You just have to go off of word alone. So there's really no way to say that there's going to be some kind of a binding force keeping the Russians from breaking it, rather than them signing it. So with that, I hope that addresses the question fairly well. I feel like that's a really poor answer, but unfortunately, my brain's working so little at this point, I don't really know how to answer that. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next, we have a $10 super chat once again from Wilderness, and he makes amends. He says, Matt, I love you too. For me, you both are like close friends. You don't know me, but I'm listening to you every day. Question, what if millions of Russians will start to run away from Russia? And before Enforcer answers that question, thank you, Wilderness. And like I heard a professional bowler say yesterday, I told the Enforcer this joke before, so you'll know where I'm going. Is thank you for watching, Wilderness. After all, that is all you could do. And then played the Sigma Male music.
Yeah. Can we pull that up on YouTube? You know, so I can actually see it. What's it called?
Yes, pull it up. It's professional. Let me see. Professional bowler. He's a real eccentric guy. Professional bowler says you watched. That's all you could do. Hopefully it pulls it up. Pete Weber. That's who it is. It's Pete Weber.
Let me see if I put that in. Can I find it?
Hate me or love me, you watched. That's all you could do.
I found it. Here we go. I was like, let me close that window.
I appreciate all the fans I had. Hate me or love me. You watched. That's all you could do. Thank you.
That's too good.
He's whipping out that
One also has copyright music in the background, by the way.
Oh, crap. Okay. Hate me or love me. You watched. That's all you can do.
Savage.
Oh, man. Hang on. We got to listen to that again.
All the fans I had. Hate me or love me. You watched. That's all you could do.
Oh,
hate me or love me.
That guy has a hell of an ego for a bowler, I gotta say.
Yeah, I mean, like, oh man, I never knew that so much heat would come from a bowler. Anyways, hate me. Well, you know, that's what I need to start saying to my haters, man, and the bots. You know, hate me or love me. You watched. That's all you could do. But anyways, oh man.
But anyways, back to Wilderness's question at the end of the super chat. There, he said, "What if millions of Russians will start to run away from Russia?"
it wouldn't be good for them. They would be running out of guys. And so with that, I hope that answers the question fairly well, Wilderness. And thank you so much once again for the support. If they start running out of manpower like that, that may become critical for the Russians well on beyond the war and decades into the future. And with that, we are on to the next one. Listen, man, hated or watched, you watched. That's all you could do.
Yeah, hate me or love me, you watched. And that's all you could do. And he actually did hit a strike after that, by the way.
Oh, nice. So the man backed it up with some real skill.
Yeah, he did.
Nice, nice. And so with that, we're on to the next one. You know what I mean?
All right. So up next, we have a super chat from David L., who puts in a $20 donation and say, "What say you? I say it is time to send Leopards, also Gripens, and F-16s, A-10s, and Blackhawks in the genocide."
I would agree with you. I think that it would be incredibly important to send the Leopards. I also think the F-16s would be very competent. A-10s, kind of, but if they're there, they're there. Blackhawks would be pretty nice to send just for additional helicopter transport. Gripens, they're air superiority fighters, slightly multi-role, but I think the F-16 would do the job a little bit better. Regardless, I think that would be good to send any of that support if it's ever possible. And I would agree with you. And so with that, thank you so much once again for the support, David L. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And with that, we are on to the next one. And thank you once again for the support.
And up next, we have a $10 super chat from Kilo Charlie, who says, "Can we get a boiled frogs report? Fukushima and such."
Boiled frogs?
I don't know what that means for the record.
La monsieur. We cook out the escargot. We eat the snail.
I unfortunately, I couldn't help you with the whole cook snail thing.
Bien la française, avec
And we have some French viewers. I'm not roasting you all. I actually think France is kind of neat. Can't really give you a lot of news on Fukushima because I haven't been keeping up to date on that. So unfortunately, I would have to declare ignorance on that. So with that, thank you so much once again for support, though. And we are on to the next one. And thank you for helping this Leaf Spring Army to keep on running.
Indeed. And up next, we have a $5 super chat from Neoclassic YouTube, who says, "I just dropped in and I'm off to work. When do you think Ukraine will counteroffensive? Also, here's 5 for you. Slava Ilise."
Thank you for the $5. And also, I think the Ukrainians will most likely be committing some kind of assault or an offensive sometime in late February. It will either be directed towards Melitopol or the town of Starobilsk, north of Luhansk. And so with that, Governor, I hope that answers the question fairly well. And thank you so much once again, Neoclassic YouTube, for helping this channel to keep on running. Your support helps out a great deal. And without your support, this wouldn't have been possible. And so with that, we're on to the next one. And thank you so much once again.
And up next, we have a question from Damien Ballou, who says, "I heard today that the countries who have Leopards, tanks, Poland, Spain, make coalition named the Leopards Coalition, and they talk about passing by, though, okay, of Germany. Have you heard?"
I have heard, but I don't really know where that's going, so we didn't really report on it much. But with that, I hope that does address the question fairly well, and I thank you so much once again for the support. And with that, we are on to the next one, and thank you once again.
And up next, we have a question from Bill G, who says, "Why can we not just buy the Leopards outright and then ship them to Ukraine ourselves?"
Because that implies that the Germans are somehow supporting the whole thing.
I went from being French to Mexican. Well, I'm dropping that accent. It's not working anymore. The problem is that using a nation's weapons, if they produce it, it implies them. That's why the U.S. can tell the Netherlands, you cannot send your Patriots somewhere, because we sold it to them. And if they want to buy more of our stuff in the future, they have to play by our rules, or else they won't get anything else. And so with that, I hope that answers the question fairly well. And with that, we're on to the next one.
All right. Let's see. So I'm out of live chat questions somehow. I somehow went through 20 of them that fast.
What do you mean?
That was not expected. So as you saw in the live chat, I just ran out of questions. Please send. I need them at @Enforcer Matt.
Oh, dang.
I don't know how we ran out. I always collect about 25 per night, and we just ran through all of them.
What a night. What a night.
Angry Penguin, favorite color's red.
My favorite color is also red. Just come to think of it. Um, uh, all right, so now it is time to get into the German accent as we wait for more super chats, yeah. And I knew a girl so ugly she had a face like a Saint Bernard. And now I'm turning Italian. I can't keep an accent straight anymore on the stream. I know a girl so ugly. The last time. No, what the hell is that even? You know what? Forget it. I'm not doing that one.
I'm telling you, I get no respect around here. I get no respect around here. I knew a girl so ugly. She had a face like a Saint Bernard. I'm telling you what, I don't get it easy around here. You know what I mean? I was tired one night and I went to the bar to have a few drinks. The bartender asked me, "What do you have?" I said, "Surprise me." He showed me a naked picture of my wife. I'm telling you what, I don't get respect around here. My marriage is on the rocks again. Yeah, my wife just broke up with her boyfriend. I tell you what, I'm all up in chatters. I'm telling you what, I don't want to get it ever right in life. One day I came home early from work. I saw a guy jogging naked. I said to the guy, "Hey, buddy, what are you doing that for, huh?" He said, "Because you came home early." I tell you what, I get no respect around here. My wife doesn't really love me. I went to see the doctor, Dr. Vinny Boomba, yeah. I told him once, "Doctor, every morning when I get up and look in the mirror, I feel like throwing up. What's wrong with me?" He said, "I don't know, but your eyesight's perfect."
Scott, you said, you guys are going bonkers.
We kind of are. We're waiting for live chats.
Oh,
Like,
we have one.
Oh, hey,
we have
finally
one
got
from OZ Jeff Gray. And also, Paul McDonald, I have to get with you on Discord about that. Wouldn't want that information falling into the wrong hands, especially the Russians. But anyways, OZ Jeff Gray said, question, when will Schultz allow Leopards to start retrofit and send to Ukraine?
We have no idea right now. Right now, that appears that it'll never happen, but that could change here in the future. So right now, to be honest with you, we're not entirely sure, but we are trying to keep track of that situation. And it appears that at the moment, that will happen as soon as the United States says they'll send Abrams. Then the Germans will start working in that direction, and until then, there will be no change. And so with that, I hope that answers the question fairly well, and we are on to the next one, if we have one.
And Roger H. says, have you heard anything from Operator Starsky?
We have. He is okay. He is currently indisposed at the moment. He's a little busy. So we will be hearing back from him sometime around. But he is safe and he is all right. And so with that, I hope that does answer the question fairly well. And we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a question from Christian Cruz, who says, do you think the 19 next-gen Caesar Hobbits Denmark is sending will be a game changer?
I think they will. I think the Caesars that they are sending will be game changers. Caesars are pretty much a less upgraded version than the Archer, but it still uses the same basic principles, and it's much faster in shoot and scoot abilities than anything the Russians have. And so with that, I hope that does address the question fairly well, and we are on to the next one.
All right, and up next, we have a question from, actually not a question, we have a super chat from Wellness once again. He puts in a $5 donation again and says, to say the least, quack, boo, roar, meow, and with that being said, Igor, vodka, blia, jaga, jaga, boom.
Jaga. Thank you so much for the support, Wellness, to say the least, and of course, all those onomatopoeias that we use all the time. And so with that, we're on to the next one. But thank you so much once again for the support and helping this thing to keep on running. And with that, we're on to the next one.
And up next, we have a question from Paul B., who says, why do you think we have been getting fewer intercepted Russian phone calls, or is it that we just haven't been getting any good ones?
We have been getting fewer intercepted phone calls on this channel because we don't really use a lot of them. There's loads of them out there. I haven't really seen a drop in them, a noticeable drop. But we only get one or two of them every once in a while. So that's why it looks like there's a drop, is because we're just not showing them on the news as much. And so with that, I hope that answers the question fairly well. And we're on to the next one.
And up next, we have a super chat from Mr. Clancy once again, who puts in a $3 donation and says, with the coming lack of men, we're about to be flooded by mail order brides from Russia.
Hey, I'm not complaining at all, you know what I mean? I get no respect around here. I tell you what, I told my tennis, my teeth are going yellow. He told me to wear a brown necktie. I tell you what, I get no respect around here. But I don't know why I had to go into that. I'm just kind of like feeling it. And it's kind of funny to me. I don't know if it's funny to y'all. Listen, for what you're doing, it's a riot around here. Anyways,
Also, Mandy, I like how Mr. Clancy put that in. With thee coming lack of men, thou about to be flooded by thine order brides from the Russian lands. But thank you so much for the support, Mr. Clancy. And you may be right. We may be seeing a lot of mail order brides coming out of Russia. You know what I mean? And so with that, thank you once again for the support. I hope that does address the comment fairly well. And we're on to the next one. And thank you once again.
And up next, we have a question from Christian Cruz, who says, will Russian Tinder be lit after the war? Have White Lotta needs love. Yeah, I guess you could say their Tinder will be lit in a certain way. It'll be lit.
Yeah, kind of. I guess you could say. Anyways, I suppose so. I guess it would be. And so with that, I hope that does address the question fairly well. And we're on to the next one.
And up next, we have a question from Richard Rohde, who says, can the U.S. send inflatable Abrams decoys to get Germany to allow Leopards being sent to Ukraine?
Can you reread that one again?
Let's see. Can the U.S. send inflatable Abrams decoys to get Germany to allow Leopards being sent to Ukraine?
No, because they would find out about that quickly, and that could be a huge diplomatic scandal. And we don't want to have diplomatic scandals with allies because that could harm relationships. And so with that, I hope that answers the question fairly well. And I think we're going to answer 2 more for the night because honestly, I'm hardly mentally here anymore. And that's why it's really hard for me to hear or understand questions to really answer them. So we're going to answer 2 more and then round out tonight's stream. And so with that, we are on to the next one.
And up next, we have a question from Anthony Venditti, who says, will you please ask Enforcer to fill out the NATO line on the map?
Fill out the NATO line. I think it's filled out as best we can have it. So with that, I hope that addresses the question fairly well. And we are on to the final one of the night. And so, who is the lucky last person who threw in the lucky last question of the night? And also, I was seeing that from Jessica as well. I was like, what? What does that mean? But let's get to the last
Seriously,
question
what does that mean? Jessica said, you're wrong. You're below her, so no chance. Who's her?
She doesn't do slums.
She doesn't.
I tell you.
It's time for me to whip out the phone again.
I tell you, I ain't getting no respect around here. My psychiatrist told me I'm going crazy. I told him, if you don't mind, I'd like a second opinion. And he said, all right, you're ugly too. I tell you what, I'm getting no respect around here. I was so ugly, my mother used to feed me with a slingshot. I tell you what. When I was born, the doctor took one look at my face, turned me over, and said, look, twins. And when we're poor, too. If I wasn't born a boy, I'd have nothing to play with. I tell you what.
Oh, damn. What? I didn't read that.
What?
Did you hear that?
Wait a minute, what? Yeah, I heard it. I was just trying to process it.
I didn't process it when I read it. I read it and then processed it.
With my wife, I don't give no respect. I made toast on her birthday to the best woman a man ever had. The waiter joined me. I tell you what, I'm not a sexy guy. I went, oh, wait a minute, hang on, we're skipping that. I tell you, wait a minute, that was the same thing. What a childhood I had. Why, when I took my first step, my old man tripped on me. I tell you what, last week I told my psychiatrist I keep thinking about suicide. He told me from now on I have to pay in advance. I tell you what, I get no respect around here. But anyways, let's get off the question of the night. And also, I was just giving you time, Ed, to see if Jessica was going to say anything.
I don't think so. I don't see anything in here, honestly. Let's see. I don't see anything.
All right, so let's get on to the final question of the night.
And the final question of the night goes to, oh, dang it. Hold on a minute. I just lost it. Let me go back up to it. Paul B., who says, what do you think the minimum required to cause a coup in Russia would be?
Minimum required would be dissent in the military, a large amount of the Russian population either being indifferent or anti-Russian government, and also a external crisis that was inevitably going to lead to a massive issue in the future. Also, it appears that Jessica wasn't saying that to us. I think she's saying that to someone else. So I think those would be the key cornerstone things needed to cause a coup inside of Russia. Without those, you really can't achieve one. And so with that, also, we have a bot, Matthew, Lop Destroyer.
Lop Destroyer. It's actually spitting facts. Do you see that? It's a blank, right? That's actually, it just admitted to the war crimes it just committed.
Oh, yeah, it is. I thought you were saying something else right there, but we're going to hide that one.
A stupid bot right there, just admitting to war crimes.
Yeah. And so with that, I hope that answers the final question of the night. I think we got to it. I can't even remember. But I thank you all so much once again for watching. If y'all did enjoy, make sure to hit the subscribe button. It takes a decent amount to run this channel, believe it or not. That's why I have no mental abilities right now to even process where I'm at right now or what I'm even doing anymore. So make sure to hit the subscribe button, make sure to hit the like button, hit the bell button as well, so that way you're notified when these streams go live, because we run this thing every single day of the week at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, except for Mondays. And so with that, thank you all so much once again for watching, and I will see you all tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern Time to cover the next 24 hours of the news of the war in Ukraine. Good night. Good luck, take care, and I'll see y'all.
Oh, Jessica's a bot.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Sad.
I knew it.
Sad. Pitiful. And on that
anyways,
bombshell,
go ahead.
it is time to end. Good night, everyone, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Yes. The Leaf Street Army sends its regards.
Ще не вмерла України ні слава, ні воля. Ще нам, браття українці, усміхнеться доля. Згинуть наші вороженьки, як роса на сонці. Запануємо ми, браття, у своїй сторонці. Душу й тіло ми положим за нашу свободу і покажем, що ми браття козацького роду. Душу й тіло ми положим за нашу свободу і покажем, що ми браття козацького